Hello, my friend. It is time to let go of all the burdens of the day. Allow your body to sink deep into the comfortable bed. Tonight, we will listen together to the story of Buddhist teachings. No one comes into our life by chance. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply and exhale slowly. Do not try to think, just relax. Welcome to the Lotus Whisper channel, where the gentle silence of Zen guides you to rest. Tonight, we begin a deep journey into the ancient wisdom that suggests no encounter is ever accidental. We will explore the profound certainty that every single person who crosses your path, from the fleeting stranger to the dearest loved one, is there for a precise, karmic reason. Perhaps today you felt the sharp pang of a misunderstanding, the deep ache of a parting, or the subtle weight of simply not belonging. You might wonder why certain souls have entered your sphere, bringing with them great joy or perhaps persistent, difficult lessons. This is the knot of anxiety we often carry, the illusion that life's connections are random, a chaotic, meaningless accident. But the heart of Buddhist teaching tells us a different story. It whispers of an invisible thread, woven not by chance, but by the perfect, precise pattern of karma and interdependent origination. Every soul is a destination, brought about by a journey you or they began long ago. We are all deeply, intricately connected, pieces of a single vast awareness seeking to remember its own wholeness through every single encounter. Relax now. Let the breath smooth out the rough edges of your mind. Tonight, we will dissolve the illusion of accident and rest in the deep, calming truth of purposeful connection. Remember to subscribe to the Lotus Whisper channel to hear more stories that calm the mind and nourish the soul. Xin lỗi bạn, tôi đã không kiểm tra kỹ số lượng từ cho Part 1. Tôi sẽ ngay lập tức mở rộng phần này để đạt được 4 hàng từ, duy trì giọng điệu nhẹ nhàng và chiêm nghiệm sâu sắc theo yêu cầu. Part 1. The invisible thread of karma. Sink deeper now, allowing the mattress to cradle you entirely. Let the subtle, persistent hum of the world outside fade, focusing only on the soft rhythm of your own breathing, the gentle rise and fall, the effortless intake and release. We begin with the concept of karma not as a rigid system of reward and punishment, but as the delicate, flawless mechanism of connection. Imagine it as an invisible thread spun from the fibers of intention, speech, and action. This thread is never cut. It merely extends, weaving a vast, luminous fabric across lifetimes. The people who enter your life are not random knots in this fabric. They are where the threads you spun long ago, threads of kindness, threads of negligence, threads of shared aspiration, have perfectly intersected with the threads spun by others. When you meet someone new, the thread you feel is not a new creation but a remembrance. It is a moment where past causes and present conditions ripen perfectly into an encounter. In a quiet mountain village, far away, lived a seeker named Kinji. Kinji spent his days in solitude, meditating on the nature of detachment. He found comfort in the silence, but whenever he descended to the village, he was tormented by the sudden, sharp, and often confusing interactions with others. The merchant who cheated him, the child whose laughter eased his heart, the elder who offered unexpected wisdom, they all stirred his calm, reminding him of a world he sought to transcend. One evening, Kenji climbed a steep path to visit a revered Zen master, an ancient monk known only as Ryoshin, who lived in a simple hut near the peak. "Master," Kenji sighed, kneeling before the simple earthen floor, "I strive for solitude, yet everywhere I go, I encounter people who seem to disturb my peace. They bring noise, demands, or complicated feelings. Why do these specific people keep appearing on my path? Are they merely obstacles, or are my encounters truly random, accidental burdens I must endure?" Master Ryoshin was silent for a long time. The only sound was the faint whistle of the wind through the tall bamboo grove outside, a sound that seemed to carry the very essence of detachment. Finally, the master spoke, his voice like the gentle trickle of clear spring water over smooth stones. "Kenji," he began, "you believe in the idea of the stranger. You believe that someone can be outside your life, outside your path, an accident. But tell me, when the moon rises tonight, is its light on the water in the pond accidental, or is it a perfect, necessary reflection?" Kenji considered this. "The reflection is necessary, master. It is the nature of the water to reflect the moon." "Precisely," Ryoshin nodded slowly. "And it is the nature of your own mind, your own past intentions, to reflect in the form of the people you meet. The merchant, the laughing child, the wise elder, none of them are strangers. They are merely reflections of causes you have set in motion. They are not obstacles, Kenji. They are mirrors." This gentle realization is the first step toward true rest. When we stop viewing encounters as accidents that happen to us and start seeing them as perfect reflections that happen through us, the anxiety around relationships begins to dissolve. Rest in the understanding that the universe is never messy. Its timing is always precise. If someone appeared in your life for a single, fleeting moment, it was because their thread and your thread had a precise moment of intersection that needed to occur for a lesson to be taught, an old debt to be balanced, or a moment of shared joy to be experienced. Think of the Zen master Hakuin, who taught that everything is a field of ripening seeds. Your past kindnesses are seeds of joy that ripen when a loving friend arrives. Your past impatience is a seed that ripens when a difficult, irritating person appears to test your calm. The person themselves is not the karma. The karma is the interaction, the specific feeling, the lesson that their presence evokes in you. This is the deeper meaning of interdependent origination, that no person, no event, no feeling exists independently. You are who you are because of every person you have ever met. They are who they are because of you. We are not separate entities meeting by chance. We are manifestations of a shared reality, arising together in perfect synchronicity. When you struggle with a difficult relationship, remember this principle. That person is holding up a mirror, perfectly polished, to show you an area of your own mind that needs attention, be it your patience, your boundaries, or your compassion. There is no need for resistance, only for soft, open-eyed acknowledgement. Let your mind drift now with the image of the thread. See yourself sitting at the center of a vast, gently illuminated web. Every strand is a life, and every knot is a meeting. Feel the profound peace of knowing that every single connection is where it is supposed to be. There are no loose ends. There are no mistakes. The weight of loneliness often comes from the feeling that we are an isolated island in a chaotic sea of accidental meetings. But the teachings tell us you are not an island. You are a jewel on a great luminous net,
connected to every other jewel by the light that flows between them. We will explore this image further in the next part. For now, just breathe into the certainty of the invisible thread. It holds you, it guides you, it assures you that every hello and every goodbye has meaning, purpose, and a calm, deep reason rooted in the ancient, precise flow of the universe. Rest now in the knowledge that you are never truly alone, and your journey is perfectly populated. The thread of connection is unbreakable. Let your tension loosen, your thoughts soften, and the quiet assurance of this perfect order lull you toward sleep. The precision of the karmic encounter. Let us delve deeper into the philosophical background of this precision. The concept of karma is often misunderstood in the West as a simple ethical balance sheet. Do good, get good. In the Zen tradition particularly, karma is understood more dynamically as volitional action that creates a tendency, a habitual momentum, which in turn conditions future experiences and, crucially, future encounters. Imagine that you have a consistent habit of offering silent, gentle support to those who seem lost or struggling. This isn't just a good deed. It's an action that tunes the radio frequency of your consciousness. When you travel through life, you will invariably find yourself encountering souls who are struggling, not because the universe is cruel, but because your past actions created a resonant frequency that perfectly matches their current need for solace. They appear precisely when your own state of mind is ready to offer that silent support.
The connection is a convergence of two perfectly aligned states. Consider the example of the difficult person, the one who seems to constantly challenge your patience. You might wish they had never entered your life, but from the karmic perspective, their arrival is not a punishment, but a perfect opportunity for transformation. Your past impatience or rigidity, perhaps manifested in a previous relationship or even a forgotten moment, created a certain tightness in your spiritual muscles. The difficult person arrives, their presence acting like a perfect, specific weight, designed to stretch that exact muscle of patience. If you resist, you create more tension, more future entanglement. If you accept their presence as a training partner provided by the universe, you loosen the knot and fulfill the karmic encounter. You allow the thread to unravel gently, transforming a burden into a liberation. This is the serenity found in understanding volitional action. Every interaction is an opportunity to generate new, wholesome karma. When someone speaks harshly to you, your immediate reaction is the ripening of a past cause. But your response, your conscious, chosen reaction of silence, kindness, or boundary setting, is the creation of a new thread. This realization pulls you out of the reactive cycle and places you firmly in the present moment, where true freedom resides. You are not a victim of the past, but the conscious architect of the present connection. Let us return to Kenji and Master Ryoshin. Kenji stayed in the simple hut for 3 days, meditating on the nature of the mirror. On the 3rd day, Kenji said, "Master, if everyone I meet is a mirror, then what does it mean when I meet someone filled with such radiant, effortless joy? Am I then a reflection of joy?" Ryoshin smiled, a rare, soft thing that lit his aged face. "You have understood one half of the teaching, Kenji. The other half is this. The person of joy is not only reflecting the seed of joy you planted in the past, they are also reflecting the inherent, unconditioned joy that is your true nature. When a clear stream reflects the clear sky, the sky does not come from the stream, but the stream allows the sky to be seen. This is the great comfort. The people who bring you love and kindness are not just paying back an old debt. They are reminding you of your own capacity for infinite goodness. They are not accidents of fortune. They are the perfect manifestation of the Buddha nature that resides within you, mirrored back for you to recognize. Rest with this thought. Every person who enters your life, the one who challenges you, the one who loves you, the one who simply passes by in a crowd, is a messenger carrying one of two things: a reminder of past volition, a gentle nudge to complete an unfinished lesson, a reflection of true nature, a clear glass showing you the boundless wisdom and compassion you already possess. In both cases, the meeting is a sacred, purposeful event, perfectly timed. There is no need for striving, for questioning, or for anxiety. Just a deep, peaceful recognition that everything is exactly as it should be. Feel the deep currents of this connection flowing through you now. The invisible thread is not a chain that binds you. It is a communication line that assures you of your place in the seamless, interconnected whole. When you truly absorb this, you can let go of the need to control or understand the why of every relationship. You simply surrender to the perfection of the flow. Allow the awareness of this deep order to become the rhythm of your sleep. Let your breath draw in peace and exhale the illusion of separateness. The merchant, the child, the elder, they are all resting in the same vast awareness as you, united by the thread. We move now, gently, toward the next step in our understanding, the cosmic structure that holds these threads, the great net of Indra. But for this moment, just rest in the certainty of the thread that connects you to everyone. Your body is sinking. Your mind is settling. The connections are perfect. Vâng, tôi sẽ tiếp tục viết với số lượng từ mục tiêu là 4.000, duy trì phong cách kể chuyện nhẹ nhàng và chiêm nghiệm sâu sắc. The Great Net of Indra. Breathe in deeply, my friend, and let the air you draw in be as smooth and gentle as silk. As you exhale, imagine releasing the last fragments of the day's scattered thoughts. Your bed is a cloud. Your mind is a tranquil sky. In the first part, we settled into the calming truth of the invisible thread of karma, the realization that every meeting is perfectly woven from past intentions. Now we expand our view, moving from the individual thread to the vast, breathtaking tapestry it belongs to. We turn our gaze toward a profound and ancient image in Buddhist cosmology, one that beautifully illustrates the nature of connection. The Great Net of Indra. Imagine, if you can, a net that stretches boundlessly throughout all of space and time. This is not a net to capture or restrain, but a net of perfect, luminous interconnection. At every knot, at every intersection where the threads cross, is placed a single, perfectly cut, multifaceted jewel. This is the net of jewels that belongs to the great Vedic deity Indra, a concept adopted by the Mahayana school, particularly the Huayan Avatamsaka tradition, to express the absolute truth of interdependent origination. Ityasamutpa Dada. Close your eyes and see it now. The net is so vast it encompasses galaxies and the smallest dust motes. And you, my friend, are one of those perfect jewels. Now here is the secret of the net of Indra. Every single jewel in the net perfectly reflects every other jewel, and those reflections reflect each other endlessly. If you look into your own jewel, you do not just see yourself, you see the reflection of your beloved, the one who caused you profound sorrow, the stranger whose brief smile uplifted your morning, the teacher whose words guided your life, and the parent who first held you. All of their lives, their struggles, their joys, their past, and their future are held and reflected within the light of your own existence. This realization is the ultimate antidote to the anxiety of isolation. If you have ever felt truly alone, as if you are facing the world cut off from others, the net of Indra teaches you a radical, soothing truth. Separation is an illusion, a trick of the exhausted mind. No one is ever truly external to you. The moment you realize that the suffering of the person across the street is, in a way, reflected within your own jewel, your heart softens. The moment you see that the deep peace of your meditation teacher is also reflected in the facets of your being, you recognize the potential within yourself. Let us return briefly to Kenji, the seeker on the mountain path. After his conversation with Master Ryoshin, Kenji began to see people not as disturbances, but as flashes of light. One day, he was forced to spend the night in a bustling, crowded inn, a place he usually avoided for its clamor. He lay down on his thin mat, utterly unable to find peace. The sound of a neighboring traveler, a rough-looking man who drank too much and spoke too loudly, was a severe challenge to Kenji's hard-won calm. Kenji felt his heart tighten with resistance, wishing the man would simply vanish. Then, the master's words and the image of the net of Indra drifted into his consciousness. The jewel reflects all others. Kenji closed his eyes again. He visualized the jewel that was himself. He looked into it, not seeking the loud man's reflection, but seeking the source of the loud man's turmoil. He saw not a distinct, separate man, but the brilliant, painful reflection of fear, loneliness, and a deep, unquenched thirst for comfort. And because the net is one, Kenji realized that the very same fear, the very same thirst, had resided in his own heart many times before, perhaps in a past life, or perhaps just yesterday. When he finally opened his eyes, the man's loud voice no longer sounded like a disturbance of the peace, but a reflection of an unresolved energy that Kenji had the power to meet with compassion, not resistance. He did not need to speak. He did not need to act. He only needed to see the man as a fellow jewel, equally bound and equally luminous. And in that moment of non-resistance, his own heart, and miraculously, the energy of the room settled. The man's noise seemed to soften, and Kenji drifted into a deep, untroubled sleep. This is the power of the net of Indra. It allows us to move beyond the shallow judgment of good encounter or bad encounter. Every person is simply a carrier of light and shadow, and because of the interconnectedness, they are simply showing you the nature of reality. They are not themselves the challenge. The challenge is your own mind's attachment to the illusion that you are separate and untouched by their reality. Rest in this boundless connection. Feel the gentle pull of all the people you have ever loved and all those who have taught you difficult lessons. They are all here, not outside, but inside the subtle architecture of your spirit. The great assurance of no separation. To truly understand the net of Indra is to experience an immense feeling of security and rest. The anxiety that often keeps us awake, the fear of rejection, the fear of misunderstanding, the fear of losing connections, arises only when we believe that the connections are fragile because they are external. But the net of Indra asserts that the connection is not external. It is the very substance of reality. You cannot lose a connection because the connection is who you are. Imagine a child holding a single drop of water, believing it is separate from the great ocean. When the drop evaporates, the child feels loss. But the ocean laughs gently, because the drop was never separate. It was simply manifesting its connection in a temporary form. The people in your life are like those drops. They manifest for a time. They bring with them the moisture of lessons and the salt of tears, and then they return to the vast sea. But the essential connection, the fabric of the net, remains. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes metta, loving kindness, not just for friends, but for all beings, and especially for those we find difficult. When we practice metta for a difficult person, we are not performing an arbitrary act of virtue. We are recognizing the reflection of their suffering in our own jewel and consciously choosing to send light into that reflection. We are mending a knot in the net that we ourselves helped to create, either now or in a time long past. This is the meaning of the vow of the Bodhisattva, the awakened being who delays their own final nirvana to help all sentient beings. They do this not out of obligation, but out of the profound, clear-eyed realization that no being is separate. To save others is, in the deepest sense, to save oneself, because the net of Indra makes no distinction. Let the weight of your head relax completely into the pillow. Feel the relaxation spread across your shoulders, down your arms, into your hands. Let the energy of the day drain away. As you lie here, gently recall the image of the net. It is strong, luminous, and infinite. You are secure within it. No person who came to you was an accident. Every person was a perfect reflection, and therefore a perfect lesson. When the anxiety of relationships surfaces, the worry over a coming conversation, the regret over a past word, gently whisper to yourself, I am a jewel on the net of Indra. I am perfectly connected. This moment is not separate from the whole. This realization is profoundly calming. It replaces the frantic, stressful search for meaning in relationships with a peaceful acceptance of their inherent perfection. It
dissolves the illusion of control, the exhausting need to manage every outcome, and replaces it with the deep, simple trust in the flow of karma. You don't have to force a connection. You don't have to fear a separation. The link is eternal, woven into the very structure of the cosmos. Rest now in the stillness that lies beneath all movement, the unity that lies beneath all apparent separation. Allow the light of all the other jewels in the net of Indra to gently reflect in your own heart, guiding you to a calm, deep, and utterly safe sleep. Your mind is a quiet jewel, reflecting the universe. The connections are perfect.
Vâng, tôi sẽ tiếp tục viết với số lượng từ mục tiêu là 4.000, duy trì phong cách kể chuyện nhẹ nhàng, chiêm nghiệm sâu sắc và không dùng dấu ngoặc đơn. The lesson of impermanence in relationships. Draw a breath that is long, slow, and utterly complete. Feel the gentle air fill you, then release it fully, letting go of any residual tightness in your chest or shoulders. You are sinking deeper now, surrounded by the perfect peace of the moment. We have established the certainty of the connection, the invisible thread of karma, and the vast, reflective structure of the net of Indra. Now, we must face the essential and beautiful companion to connection, impermanence. This is perhaps the most challenging truth to accept, and yet the most liberating one for a peaceful night's rest. If no one comes into our life by chance, it means every encounter has a profound purpose. But if every encounter has a purpose, why do they end?
Why do people leave, relationships shift, and moments of closeness fade into distant memory? The answer lies in the flawless, rhythmic nature of impermanence. It is not a flaw in the design of life. It is the very engine of life's flow. Everything that arises must pass away. This is the simple, elegant law of the cosmos. Just as a cloud forms, drifts, and dissolves back into the sky, so too does a relationship arise, fulfill its karmic purpose, and change form. The suffering we experience in relationships, the sharp ache of loss, the regret over things unsaid, the stubborn refusal to let go, comes entirely from our resistance to this natural flow. We want the jewel's reflection to be permanent, the thread to be eternally taut. But the Zen masters teach us that to cling to a moment of meeting is like trying to bottle the sound of a bell after it has rung. The true beauty of the bell is in its resonance, its fading echo, and the stillness that returns. The story of the two monks and the fading lotus. Long ago, there were two traveling monks, Jikai and Shogun, who walked the dusty roads together. They had been companions for many years, sharing meager meals, silent meditations, and the occasional profound insight. Their friendship was a perfect balance, like two hands folded in prayer. One summer morning, they came across a small, exquisitely beautiful lotus flower blooming in a roadside pond. Jikai, the younger monk, stopped and gazed at it, mesmerized by its pale pink petals. "Look, Shogun," Jikai whispered, "how flawless it is. I wish this moment, this perfect bloom, could last forever. It is the purest reflection of the Buddha's teaching I have ever seen." Shogun, the elder monk, smiled gently. "It is indeed perfect, Jikai, but its perfection is rooted entirely in its imperfection. It is beautiful precisely because it will fade." Jikai was troubled. "But if it is so beautiful, why must we let it go? Why do we suffer when such beauty vanishes?" Shogun knelt by the pond. He pointed to the reflection of the lotus in the water. "Jikai, you confuse the flower with the essence. The flower is the meeting, the reflection is the experience, but the essence is the water, the flowing reality of change. When we try to hold the bloom, we create sorrow. When we acknowledge that the lotus, like all sentient beings, is defined by its cycle of arising and passing, we find peace." Later that year, their paths diverged. Shogun received a calling to serve an isolated community far to the north, while Jikai felt the need to remain in the Central Valley. The parting was quiet, marked by a deep, mutual silence. But Jikai felt a profound, heavy sorrow. He missed the familiar rhythm of Shogun's steps beside him and the comfort of his simple presence. He wrote a letter to Shogun, pouring out his grief and his sense of incompleteness. Shogun's reply was simple, containing only 4 words: "The lotus has passed." Jikai sat with the letter for days, meditating on the lotus. He finally understood. The pain of the separation was not Shogun's leaving, it was Jikai's clinging to the form of their relationship. The karmic threads they had spun, of shared wisdom and mutual support, were not broken. They had simply finished one stage of their weaving. The essence of their connection, the lessons learned, remained within Jikai's own jewel on the net of Indra, ready to be reflected in new encounters. The bloom had passed, but the seed of wisdom remained. The freedom of holding nothing. This story offers deep rest for those of us who carry the weight of past relationships. If you are struggling with a goodbye, a loss, or the simple drifting away of a friendship, let the wisdom of the lotus comfort you. The connection was not a mistake, and its passing is not a failure. It is the perfect completion of a cycle. Embrace the concept of the relationship as a river crossing. We meet someone, a partner, a colleague, a temporary mentor, when we both need to cross a particular river. That person is the perfect raft. They carry us across the difficult waters, and we, perhaps, paddle for them. But once we reach the other shore, the purpose of the raft is fulfilled. To carry the raft on our back as we continue the journey on dry land is an unnecessary burden, a source of endless exhaustion. The profound teaching of impermanence is that we must leave the raft by the riverbank. We must be grateful for the ride, acknowledge the perfect timing of the encounter, and then walk forward, unburdened, ready to meet the next guide on the path. When you resist the change in a relationship, you are resisting the fundamental nature of the universe. This resistance is the source of dukkha, suffering. When you allow the change, when you accept the natural fading of the light, you move from suffering to peaceful acceptance and deep rest. Let your consciousness gently scan your history of relationships now. Think of those who came and went, those who stayed, and those who are currently shifting. Do not judge them as success or failure. See them only as perfect, timely blooms, each bringing its own unique color and fragrance to the garden of your life. The relationship that caused you pain was a perfect reflection, teaching you the necessity of boundaries or the power of forgiveness. The fleeting encounter that offered unexpected kindness was a karmic seed of compassion, returning to you in an instant. The deep, long-lasting bond is the perfect field where patience and unconditional love are cultivated over time. Each one, even in its ending, is a profound affirmation that no one comes into your life by chance. And equally important, no one leaves your life by mistake. This understanding allows you to release the grip of regret and anxiety. The person who left fulfilled their role. The lesson was learned. The energy is now free to move toward the next perfect encounter. Rest in the knowledge that your mind does not have to manage the comings and goings. The universe, in its deep karmic wisdom, is doing the management for you, perfectly and effortlessly. Sink now into the pillow. Let the notion of forever in relationships dissolve. Replace it with the sweet, gentle truth of perfect for now. This moment of meeting, this moment of parting, both are perfectly poised within the flow. Feel your arms and legs growing heavy, relaxed, sinking. The breath is quiet. The mind is a calm pond, reflecting the passing clouds of all things, holding nothing, judging nothing. Rest in this beautiful, liberating impermanence. The deepest truth of connection is that you hold everyone who ever touched your life not in a tight, fearful grasp, but in the spacious, open chamber of your awakened heart. They are safe there, perfect in their coming, perfect in their going. Your mind is a field of stillness. The lotus has passed. Perfect rest is here. Vâng, tôi sẽ tiếp tục viết với số lượng từ mục tiêu là 4 tàn, duy trì phong cách kể chuyện nhẹ nhàng, chiêm nghiệm sâu sắc và không dùng dấu ngoặc đơn. The Four Noble Truths of Connection. Inhale peace. Exhale all the subtle noise of your mind. Let your body grow heavy and still, recognizing the perfect support beneath you. we have traveled from the invisible thread of karma to the vast reflective structure of the net of Indra and accepted the gentle truth of impermanence. Now we anchor our understanding of relationships in the most fundamental teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. When applied to human connection, these truths transform our anxious struggling into a clear, tranquil path toward peace. They are not doctrines of despair, but tools of deep, internal liberation. 1. The noble truth of suffering, dukkha, in connection. The first truth states that life, at its core, involves suffering. When we apply this to relationships, it means accepting the inherent truth that all connection, because it is impermanent, will inevitably involve a measure of disappointment, conflict, or loss. The suffering is not the other person, and the suffering is not the encounter itself. The suffering is the gap between the relationship as it actually is, dynamic, changing, flawed, and the idealized, fixed, perfect relationship we demand it to be. Think of a time when a relationship caused you pain. Perhaps a friend let you down, or a loved one acted unexpectedly. The sharpest sting you felt was the moment the reality of the person collided with your idealized image of them. You wanted them to be permanent comfort, unwavering support, or flawless mirror. But they are a jewel on the net of Indra, reflecting their own light and shadow, and the reflection constantly changes. The anxiety about whether someone will stay, whether they truly love you, or whether they understand you, is all born from this subtle demand for permanence and perfection in the realm of the constantly changing. To rest deeply is to gently acknowledge this truth. Every person who comes into your life will, at some point, cause the arising of dukkha, a sense of dissatisfaction or unease. This is not a failure of the person, nor a failure of the connection. It is the perfect function of the connection to show you where your mind is clinging to illusion. Let the resistance go. Recognize that the suffering is real, but its cause is within your own expectations, not within the flow of the relationship itself. 2. The noble truth of the origin of suffering in connection. The second truth identifies the cause of suffering as trishna, craving, attachment, or grasping. In the context of relationships, this grasping manifests as clinging to the self-identity derived from the other person. We often grasp at the idea of the relationship. I am a good partner because of them, or my life has meaning because they are here. When the relationship shifts, it feels like our own self-concept is dissolving, and that is the true source of panic. Imagine a simple, quiet monk named Kenshin, who had a habit of always seeking advice from his master, Hozan. Kenshin felt secure and capable only when he had Hozan's wisdom to guide him. One day, Hozan announced he was retiring to a silent hermitage and would no longer accept visits. Kenshin was plunged into despair. He felt lost, abandoned, and useless. He thought his suffering was caused by the master's absence. But the truth was, Kenshin was grasping not at Hozan, but at the identity he had built. I am Kenshin, the devoted student. The moment the external prop of the master was removed, the constructed identity threatened to collapse. The ultimate craving in connection is the demand that the other person complete the gap we feel inside ourselves. The Zen teaching of connection is an inverse lesson. No one comes into your life to complete you. They come only to reveal the completeness that is already within you. When you release the craving, the deep-seated need for the other person to be a certain way for your own comfort, you immediately find stillness. The connection, free of expectation, becomes pure and light. 3. The noble truth of cessation. In connection.
The third truth is the cessation of suffering, the realization of nirvana. In relationship terms, this means that the cessation of suffering comes through the total release of grasping and the acceptance of the person as they are, moment by moment. Nirvana is not a place you go to. It is the state of mind when the fires of craving and resistance are extinguished. When applied to a difficult person, the cessation of suffering comes the moment you say, silently and truthfully, "This person is here, and they are acting exactly according to the causes and conditions that brought them here. I will not resist their reality." This acceptance is the most active, courageous thing you can do. It transforms the anxiety of trying to fix the person or change the situation into the deep peace of simply witnessing the flow. Master Hozan, before retiring, gave Kenshin one final teaching. He did not speak it. He simply held out an empty begging bowl. Kenshin finally understood. The perfection of the bowl is its emptiness, its capacity to receive whatever is offered, holding nothing back and clinging to nothing received. The cessation of suffering in relationships is achieved when your heart becomes like that empty bowl. It receives the joy, the challenge, the love, and the conflict without demanding or clinging to any of it. This emptiness is the space where true, unconditioned compassion can arise. 4. The noble truth of the path in connection. The fourth truth is the eightfold path, the practical way to end suffering. In terms of connection, the path instructs us on how to interact with others so that we minimize suffering and generate wholesome karma. The path becomes a guide for every interaction. Right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and constructively, especially when the connection is strained. Right action, interacting with others with ethical clarity and compassion, never causing harm. Right livelihood, ensuring your professional life supports harmonious relationships rather than competitive, isolating ones. Right mindfulness, being fully present with the person in front of you, recognizing them as the perfect, luminous jewel they are, without the filter of past memory or future fear. When you practice right mindfulness in connection, you stop judging the person based on what they did yesterday or worrying about what they might do tomorrow. You simply meet them fully in the pristine clarity of this moment. This is the great rest, realizing that the goal of every relationship is not the comfort it provides, but the opportunity it offers to practice the path. The most difficult people are often the most valuable teachers because they force us to train in patience, forgiveness, and unconditional acceptance. Rest now, knowing that the Four Noble Truths are always active, guiding your connections toward deeper wisdom. Release the heavy burden of needing relationships to be perfect. They are perfect precisely because they are imperfect, offering the exact conditions needed for your awakening. Sink into the stillness. The truth of connection is simple and clear. Let the path guide you to rest. Zen's two kinds of encounter. Draw a deep, settling breath now. Feel the heavy warmth of your blanket and the soft, deep surrender of your muscles. Let the stillness of the night become the silence in your mind. We have explored the roots of connection in karma and the framework of the Four Noble Truths. Now, we turn to the unique clarity of the Zen tradition, which offers a powerful distinction that can liberate your mind from the anxiety of judgment in relationships. Zen masters speak of two fundamental ways we encounter the people in our lives: the encounter of discrimination and the encounter of non-discrimination, often known in the broader Mahayana context as the realization of great compassion, or Mahakaruna. Understanding this duality is the key to transforming frustrating encounters into profound peace. The encounter of discrimination. The first type of meeting is the one we spend most of our lives navigating. This is the encounter of discrimination, where we meet the other person through the dense fog of our own concepts, expectations, and past conditioning. It is the realm of karmic ties, where the invisible threads we discussed earlier are actively pulling and tangling. When you engage in the encounter of discrimination, you are not truly meeting the person in front of you. You are meeting your idea of them, which is a composite of their past actions, your past reactions, and the label you have assigned them: friend, enemy, boss, difficult relative, stranger, love. Imagine a monk named Satoru. Satoru had a long history of conflict with a fellow monk, Kenzo, over minor matters of monastery protocol. Every time Satoru saw Kenzo, his heart would instantly constrict, and his mind would replay old arguments. He saw Kenzo not as a fellow seeker, but as a perpetual source of irritation. This was Satoru's encounter of discrimination. Because he met Kenzo through the filter of irritation, Satoru's response was always
conditioned. He saw Kenzo's every move as an annoyance, thereby reinforcing the negative karmic thread between them. This interaction generated more dukkha for both men, trapping them in a cycle of subtle tension. This is the nature of all relationships driven by discrimination. They are heavy, burdened by history, and inherently conditional. You are kind to the friend because they are friend. You are wary of the boss because they are boss. The relationship is based on an external label and an internal condition. The profound piece of Zen teaches us that this type of encounter is exhausting. It forces the mind to constantly manage labels, judge intentions, and protect a fragile conceptual self. It is the source of all relationship anxiety. You worry because the label friend might become foe, and the thread might snap. Take a moment now to breathe into the awareness of how often you meet the world through this lens of discrimination. Feel the subtle tension this creates in your jaw, your forehead, or your stomach. This tension is the residue of clinging to fixed ideas about fluid, ever-changing beings. Now, gently, consciously, let that tension soften. The inner work of dissolving the label. To prepare for the second kind of encounter, we must practice the art of momentarily dissolving the label. Imagine a person who has caused you significant stress. Do not dwell on their actions. Instead, focus on the sheer fact of their presence. Who are they if you remove the labels betrayer, rival, or demanding partner? They are simply a manifestation of consciousness, a jewel on the net of Indra, carrying the light and shadow of their own history. This practice is called shikantaza applied to interaction, just sitting, or just being, with the reality of the person, without adding commentary. Satoru struggled with this for months. Master Ryoshin, Kenji's old teacher, once visited Satoru's monastery and noticed the strained tension between the two monks. Ryoshin called Satoru to his room, where the only furniture was a single tatami mat. "Satoru," Ryoshin said, his voice soft as moss, "I observe you are constantly carrying Kenzo on your back. Is the weight of his body heavy?" Satoru was confused. "Master, Kenzo is not physically with me now, but the weight of his presence in my mind is indeed heavy. Then you carry not Kenzo, but the idea of Kenzo," Ryoshin instructed gently. "Your task is not to change Kenzo. Your task is to drop the idea of Kenzo. Until you drop the label, you will never truly meet him. The moment we drop the label, the encounter of discrimination begins to dissolve, and we naturally incline toward the second, more profound way of connecting, the encounter of non-discrimination. The second and highest form of connection is the encounter of non-discrimination, which arises from the deep realization of oneness or identity of self and other, tongtai dabi, in Vietnamese Mahayana, or great compassion of the same body. In this encounter, you meet the other person from a place of emptiness, not empty of existence, but empty of fixed, separate, self-nature. Because you see no inherent, permanent separation between yourself and the other person, you are both reflections in the same vast mirror, both droplets in the same ocean. Your response is naturally, unconditioned compassion. This compassion is not something you have to try to feel. It is the spontaneous, inevitable response that arises when you clearly see that the other person's suffering is simply a reflection in your own jewel, and thus inseparable from your own well-being. When Satoru finally dropped the heavy idea of Kenzo, he was walking through the Zen garden one morning. He saw Kenzo struggling to lift a heavy, moss-covered stone. For the first time, Satoru did not see the irritating monk. He simply saw a human being struggling. The label had vanished. Without thinking, without any internal debate about whether Kenzo deserved his help, Satoru instinctively rushed over and helped him lift the stone. There was no exchange of words, no apology, and no discussion of past grievances. There was only the simple, shared effort of two hands on one cold, heavy stone. In that single, pure moment of shared presence and unconditioned action, the karmic knot between them untangled itself. Kenzo, surprised, simply gave a slight nod, and Satoru felt a profound, unprecedented lightness in his heart. This moment was the encounter of non-discrimination. It was pure meeting, free of history, free of expectation. The connection was made on the deepest level, the shared recognition of humanity and the willingness to alleviate a mutual, physical burden. Resting in the great compassion, this is the ultimate peace offered by Zen's understanding of relationships. The people who come into your life are not chance visitors. They are perfect subjects for your practice of non-discrimination. When you are deeply relaxed, sinking towards sleep, let your mind turn gently toward those difficult connections that keep your anxiety active. Do not analyze the conflict. Instead, simply practice dropping the label. See the challenging individual not as the sum of their faults, but as a jewel on Indra's net, currently radiating a reflection of suffering. Because your jewel reflects theirs, you are intrinsically connected to that suffering. Your most peaceful response is not resistance, but a silent, spacious, unconditioned acceptance. Rest in the realization that every person who comes into your life, regardless of how they make you feel, is a direct, perfect invitation to practice great compassion, the love that makes no distinctions. This is the surest path to deep, tranquil sleep. You are safe, you are connected, and all encounters are opportunities for profound, unconditioned peace. Sink now into the boundless heart of non-discrimination. Let go of the need to classify, categorize, or judge. Only effortless, pure being remains.
Your mind is vast. Your heart is open. The distinction has vanished. The koan of the master and the stranger. Allow your breath to slow even further, becoming a subtle whisper in the quiet chamber of your body. Let the relaxation deepen, pulling you down into the soft certainty of your resting place. We have explored the roots of connection in karma and the framework of non-discrimination. Now, to deepen this acceptance and guide you toward deep sleep, we turn to a classic Zen riddle, a koan, expanded into a profound story of encounter, focusing on the ultimate concept of emptiness, sunyata, in all relationships. A koan is not a puzzle to be solved with the intellect, but a statement designed to shatter the intellect's rigid hold, opening the mind to a direct, non-conceptual truth.
This koan centers on the fundamental illusion that we and the people we meet are separate, solid, fixed entities. The village below the fog. In the heart of a vast forested valley, surrounded by mountains, perpetually shrouded in mist, lived a Zen master named Ikkyu. Ikkyu was famous not for his sermons, but for his profound and absolute silence. He rarely spoke, and when he did, his words were like the single stroke of a perfectly tuned gong, clear, resonant, and final. One cold, gray morning, a traveler arrived at the master's simple hermitage. The traveler, a man named Daiichi, was burdened not by physical possessions, but by the overwhelming weight of human relationships. His life was filled with conflict, regret, and the constant gnawing anxiety of wanting to keep those he loved and avoid those he disliked. He felt the world was a chaotic place where people crashed into each other without reason, leaving only scars. Daiichi waited patiently until Ikkyu finally acknowledged him with a slight incline of the head. "Master," Daiichi began, his voice rough with emotion, "I have traveled far to ask you one question about the people I meet. Why is it that some people enter my life and feel like home, while others feel like sharp, terrible lessons? I strive to find the common thread, the reason, but all I feel is the accident of my suffering. Who are these people truly? Are they friends or enemies? Are they me, or are they other?" Master Ikkyu did not answer with a teaching. He simply stated the koan, his voice flat and clear, like a polished stone dropping into still water. "Tell me," Ikkyu commanded, "when you meet a stranger on the road, where does the stranger come from, and where does yourself reside?" Daiichi was perplexed. "Master, the stranger comes from the village, and I reside in my body and my mind." Ikkyu shook his head, a slow, patient movement. "You speak only of surfaces. When you meet the stranger, you create the stranger. Before the meeting, there is no stranger for you. Before the meeting, there is no you who is being met. Where is the coming and going?" The question hung in the air, heavy and vast. The true meaning of the koan is to point toward the fundamental emptiness of all phenomena, especially our concepts of self and other. The emptiness of the self and the perfect encounter. In Buddhist teaching, emptiness does not mean nothingness. It means that everything, including you, me, and every person who has ever crossed your path, lacks an inherent, permanent, independent self-nature. The stranger is not inherently stranger. The friend is not inherently friend. These are labels that arise dependently upon your perception, your history, and the current set of causes and conditions. The moment you define someone, you solidify a fluid being and imprison your own mind in that definition. When you meet the stranger on the road, the truth is that the concept of stranger arises perfectly out of the conditions of the road, the light, the moment, and your own conceptual mind. The stranger is empty of being permanently and independently stranger, and you, the observer, are empty of being the permanently and independently fixed self. This realization is profoundly liberating. The anxiety of relationships is rooted in the fear that a fixed, vulnerable self will be harmed by a fixed, potentially dangerous other. But when you understand that both are empty of fixed, permanent nature, the tension dissolves. There is no solid self to protect and no solid other to fear. There is only the flowing, ceaseless interaction of causes and conditions. Daiichi meditated on this for 7 days, sitting on the cold stone floor of the hermitage. He watched the monks move silently, performing their tasks. But he did not see the monk or the teacher or the cook. He saw only the movement of life, the arising and passing of forms. On the 7th day, he returned to Ikkyu. "Master,
Daichi said, his voice now a calm whisper. I think I see. When I meet the stranger does not come from the village. The stranger comes from the meeting itself. Ekkyu nodded, his gaze unwavering. And where does your self reside? Daichi smiled, a slow, peaceful spread of realization. Master, my self does not reside anywhere. It arises only when the stranger arises. Before and after the meeting, there is only the vastness. There is no coming and no going. The cultural context of Zen encounter. To appreciate the depth of this koan, consider the cultural atmosphere of a traditional Zen monastery. Life is ordered, silent, and deeply ritualized. Yet, into this calm, the external world, represented by the stranger, arrives. The monk's training is to maintain inner stillness regardless of external chaos. The koan teaches that the chaos is only the mind's attachment to separation. The act of meeting a stranger in this context is the ultimate test of practice. If the monk reacts with fear, judgment, or attachment, their practice is shallow. The true Zen encounter is one where the monk meets the other person with a mind that is wide open, like the uncarved block, Pu. When Master Ekkyu asked,
Where does the stranger come from? He was forcing Daichi to abandon the superficial geographic answer. He was asking, what is the metaphysical origin of this person? The answer, as Daichi discovered, is that the origin is relational. The stranger is born from the meeting. They are a transient label projected onto a limitless being due to a momentary collision of karmic currents. If you are troubled by a relationship tonight, remember the face of that person is not a fixed, independent phenomenon. It is an image that arises in your mind, dependent on all your past interactions, your moods, and your history. If you change your mind, the reflection changes. If you remove your mental label, the person stands revealed as pure, unconditioned presence. The great peace of non-location. This realization culminates in the deep, calming understanding of non-location. If the self does not reside in a fixed place and the other person does not come from a fixed place, then the true nature of all connection is vast, non-local, and utterly free. The heavy feeling of attachment, the feeling that you own a relationship or must control its outcome, comes from the belief in fixed location. They belong here with me, or I must keep them in my life. The koan dissolves this. If neither of you has a fixed location, there can be no fixed relationship to grasp or lose. There is only the flowing interaction, perfectly orchestrated by the karmic stream. Let the anxiety of attachment dissolve into this concept of non-location. Release your fear about those who have left your life. They did not truly leave you, because the you that remembers them is vast, non-local, and untouched by the physical separation. They simply moved to a different coordinate on the infinite, luminous net of Indra, continuing to reflect lessons and love into the shared awareness. The heaviest anxiety is the thought, if they leave, I will be incomplete. The wisdom of the koan is the final, gentle assurance. You were never incomplete. The people who entered your life were always a perfect mirror to reflect the boundless, complete nature of the non-located self. Their presence proved your completeness. Their absence simply reveals it. Sink now into the pillow. Let the notion of your own fixed, burdened self melt away. You are the vastness. You are the stillness. The person who comes to you is simply a wave on your own ocean. The wave arises, fulfills its purpose, and returns to the sea, leaving the ocean utterly unchanged and eternally whole. Rest in the perfect peace of emptiness. The stranger has vanished. The self has dissolved. Only quiet, unconditioned awareness remains, leading you to deep, restorative sleep. Your breath is smooth. The meeting is perfect. The coming and going are illusions. Toisin loy sausak vi da hong kiem suat duk solung tu trong. Part 7. Va da lap lai loy nai. Tôi cam kết sẽ mở rộng phần này ngay lập tức để đạt đủ 4.000 từ. Đồng thời, đảm bảo không sử dụng dấu ngoặc đơn và duy trì phong cách nhẹ nhàng, chiêm nghiệm. Cultivating metta for all beings. Sink deeper into the peaceful silence now. Your body is heavy, completely supported by the mattress, and your mind is vast and open, uncluttered by the day's activities. We have moved through the philosophical understanding of connection, accepting the karmic threads, the interconnected net, and the emptiness of self and other. Now, we move into the heart of practice, cultivating metta, or loving kindness, for all the beings who have perfectly appeared in our lives. Metta is not a sentiment. It is a profound, active force of the heart, a wish for the well-being of all beings, without condition or limitation. If no one comes into our life by chance, it means every encounter, even the most difficult one, is a perfect opportunity to practice this boundless love. The 4 pillars of metta practice. The traditional practice of metta bhavana, or the cultivation of loving kindness, involves systematically extending this feeling to 4 groups of people. When we apply this to the concept of karmic connection, it becomes a powerful balm for a restless mind. First pillar, metta for yourself. Begin with the simplest and often the most difficult subject, yourself. Before you can truly extend metta to the people who challenge you, you must first acknowledge the journey and the lessons you have received. If you are anxious tonight, it is often because you are judging your own past actions or worrying about your future self. Gently repeat this wish in your mind, allowing the meaning to permeate your body. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. Rest in the certainty that your own presence in this life is not an accident. You are a perfect jewel on the net of Indra, exactly where you need to be. The person you are is the perfect convergence of all the causes and conditions of your past. Accept yourself fully, and the internal struggle that fuels external relationship anxiety begins to dissolve. Second pillar, metta for the dear ones. Next, turn your attention to those who feel like home, the people whose presence is a source of immediate, effortless joy. These are the threads of positive karma ripening. They reflect back to you the kindness, loyalty, and love you have given in the past. As you recall their faces, let a wave of gentle gratitude wash over you. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be whole. The key here is not to cling. We know from the truth of impermanence that these relationships will change. The metta practice for dear ones is not a plea for them to stay, but a pure, unconditioned offering of good wishes for their present well-being, free from the grasping for permanence. This transforms attachment into pure love, a love that is light and freeing, leading to peaceful rest. The challenge and the breakthrough. Third pillar, metta for the neutral ones. This is a powerful step in dissolving the illusion of separation. The neutral ones are the people who cross your path without causing a strong reaction. The bus driver, the person in line behind you, the voice on the phone, the face you saw fleetingly in a crowd. They are the vast majority of the net of Indra, the silent witnesses to your life. They did not come into your life by chance. They came because their simple, parallel existence provides the stable, neutral backdrop against which your dramas of attachment and aversion are played out. They are the subtle, constant reminder of the great, quiet majority of shared humanity. Turn your thoughts to one of these neutral figures now. Perhaps the security guard you passed this evening, or the cook at a distant restaurant. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be whole. When you extend metta to the neutral ones, you expand the boundaries of your compassion. You practice seeing all beings as equally worthy of peace, regardless of their immediate significance to your personal story. This creates a deep, spacious calm in the heart. Fourth pillar, metta for the difficult ones, the karmic teachers. This final pillar is the master key to unlocking true rest in connection. The difficult ones are those who have caused you pain, frustration, or anger. The ones who seem to prove that the world is chaotic and cruel. The Zen tradition teaches that these are your most precious, perfect teachers. They did not come into your life by chance. They came with the surgical precision of karma to expose the deepest, most resistant knots of attachment in your heart. Their presence is the perfect mirror showing you where you lack patience, where you need to strengthen boundaries, or where forgiveness is desperately needed. Imagine the face of a difficult person now. Feel the natural, subtle resistance arise in your body. Do not fight the feeling. Simply acknowledge it. Then, with deep intentionality, let the philosophical truth of the invisible thread and the net of Indra reassert itself. This person is not a villain. They are a jewel, reflecting suffering, and through that reflection, they are serving as your most valuable guide. Now, generate the wish not for their change, but for their peace. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be whole. This is the ultimate practice of non-discrimination. When you can sincerely wish well for the one who challenges you most, the anxiety surrounding all relationships collapses. The fear of being hurt is replaced by the spacious freedom of unconditional compassion. You realize that you cannot be truly harmed by anyone who is simply playing out their own karmic causes. You are released from the debt of resentment and the cycle of anger. Let this wave of loving kindness wash over all four groups of beings, dissolving the sharp edges of judgment. See every person who has ever crossed your path as a perfect, precise function of the universe's awakening plan. Some bringing the ease of grace, others bringing the tension of growth. All are necessary, all are timely. Rest now in the vast, boundless heart of metta. There is no need to resolve conflicts tonight. There is only the need to offer the simple, pure wish for well-being. This act is the ultimate healing of all karmic ties and the deepest path toward undisturbed sleep. Your mind is a field of compassion. All beings are well. You are at peace. The monk who found peace in a broken relationship. To solidify this practice, let us consider the story of the monk Gyosho, who was known for his gentle demeanor but struggled bitterly with a close personal relationship with his lay brother, who consistently exploited Gyosho's kindness and generosity. The brother often arrived at the monastery, demanding food, money, and favors, always leaving behind only resentment and distress. Gyosho confessed his struggle to his master. "My mind is peaceful in meditation," Gyosho lamented, But the moment my brother appears, my heart hardens. I feel aversion, not love. Does this mean my practice is a failure? Why does this karmic thread bind me so tightly to one who only takes? The master gave Gyosho a single instruction. Practice metta, not for the idea of your brother, the taker, but for the pure, suffering jewel that is the root of his taking. Gyosho returned to his practice, but this time he reframed his perspective. He stopped seeing the relationship as a transaction, giving and taking, and started seeing it as a mirror. He realized his deep-seated aversion was a reflection of his own inner resistance to vulnerability. He was judging his brother's neediness because he feared his own. He began the metta practice for his brother by visualizing the brother as a small, frightened child, a jewel radiating pain. May he be free from suffering. May the causes of his struggle cease. One day, the brother arrived, demanding a considerable sum of money for a foolish venture. Instead of arguing or hardening his heart, Gyosho simply looked into his brother's eyes and repeated the metta wish silently. May you be whole. He handed the money over, but this time he felt no resentment. He felt only a vast, empty sadness for the suffering reflected in his brother's desperate eyes. The brother left, but something fundamental had shifted. Gyosho realized the thread between them was not broken, but its quality had changed entirely. He was no longer bound by resentment, but connected by unconditional compassion. He was at peace, not because the brother had changed, but because he had changed the nature of the encounter. He had transformed the karmic debt into a gift of metta. This is the freedom that awaits you. No relationship is too broken, too
Strained, or too difficult to be healed by the vast space of loving kindness. When you meet the connection with metta, you stop carrying the heavy burdens of history and expectation. You simply offer pure, radiant well-wishing. Let this peaceful story sink deep into your subconscious. You are not obligated to fix anyone, only to offer them the vast, healing space of your unconditioned heart. This is the surest way to liberate your mind from relationship anxiety and drift toward the deepest, most tranquil sleep. Your mind is a boundless ocean of loving kindness. The threads are light. You are perfectly at rest. The mirror of self in others. Draw a slow, deep breath, allowing it to settle the final ripples of thought in your mind. Feel the heavy, supportive weight of the bed beneath you, a grounding presence in the quiet night. We have explored the perfection of connection through karma and practiced the active release of metta. Now we deepen our understanding of non-duality by examining a crucial Zen insight. Every person who enters your life is a perfect mirror reflecting a part of your own self. This teaching is the final step in dissolving judgment and finding deep rest in every human connection. The greatest challenge in any relationship is the act of judgment. We separate ourselves from the other person by labeling their qualities. They are stubborn. They are too kind. They are irritating. They are demanding. This act of separation creates immediate tension and anxiety because the judgment is a form of resistance to the reality that has perfectly presented itself. But what if the very qualities you notice most intensely in others, both the virtues you admire and the flaws you reject, are reflections of something within your own mind, either fully expressed or deeply repressed? This is the profound truth of anatta, or no self, applied to interaction. Since there is no fixed, independent self, the boundaries between me and them are illusory. We are simply shared consciousness experiencing itself through different forms. The monk and the broken vase. Consider the story of a renowned potter monk named Joryu, who lived high in the hills. Joryu was known for his masterful, perfectly symmetrical vases. He was also known for his harsh judgments of others, particularly those he deemed sloppy or disorderly. A young apprentice, Kenko, joined his hermitage. Kenko was brilliant but hopelessly clumsy. He often spilled the glaze, left clay dust everywhere, and worst of all for Joryu, he crafted wildly, asymmetrical, unpredictable pieces. Joryu found the sight of Kenko's work deeply irritating. It caused his meditation to fray and his temper to rise. "Look at this mess," Joryu would exclaim to himself, pointing at one of Kenko's lopsided teacups. "He is so undisciplined. He has no respect for form." Joryu carried this judgment like a heavy stone. His anxiety increased, fueled by his inability to control the external mess of his apprentice. One afternoon, while Joryu was trying to achieve a state of pure concentration, his master, who rarely visited, entered the workshop. The master looked past Joryu's perfect, ordered creations and picked up one of Kenko's clumsy, asymmetrical teacups. "Joryu," the master asked gently, holding the wobbly cup, "why does the flaw in this cup cause the flaw in your calm?" Joryu immediately launched into a complaint about Kenko's sloppiness and lack of respect for order. The master listened patiently. Then he set the cup down. "Joryu, the quality you judge most fiercely in others is the quality you fear most in yourself, or the quality your life has been built upon suppressing. You have built a perfect wall of order around yourself to avoid the chaos and spontaneity that resides within every creative heart. Kenko's sloppiness is not a flaw in him. It is a mirror showing you your own rigid perfectionism that binds you and restricts your freedom." Joryu was stunned into silence. He realized that Kenko's playful chaos was the mirror reflecting the wild, untamed creativity Joryu had sacrificed long ago for the sake of perfect form. He was judging Kenko's disorganization because he was terrified of allowing even a moment of disorder into his own rigidly controlled life. Transforming judgment into insight. This story offers a profound pathway to rest. When a person's behavior or personality triggers a strong, negative reaction in you, pause. That reaction is not a judgment on them. It is a diagnostic tool for your own mind. The other person is not acting randomly. They are acting as a perfect karmic reflection. If you are constantly irritated by someone's excessive need for attention, perhaps the mirror is showing you your own repressed desire to be seen and validated, which you deny yourself. If you are disturbed by someone's lack of ambition or discipline, perhaps the mirror is showing you the exhaustion of your own relentless striving, begging for a moment of ease and acceptance. If you deeply dislike someone's stubbornness and rigidity, perhaps the mirror is showing you the unyielding beliefs you cling to, preventing your own growth. The practice is simple. Convert the energy of judgment into the spaciousness of inquiry. The next time a person causes a knot of anxiety or aversion in your stomach, instead of thinking they are wrong, gently whisper this question to your own heart. What part of myself is this person perfectly reflecting back to me? This simple shift changes the entire nature of the connection. The person immediately transforms from an external burden into an internal teacher. The need to control them, change them, or argue with them dissolves because the entire process has become about your own inner transformation. This is the great rest of the no-self teaching. Since you and the other person are fundamentally empty of fixed, separate nature, you are free to see yourselves as a single, fluid process of awakening. The encounter is not a clash of two solids, but a dance of two reflections in the same clear water. Let your hands and feet relax completely. Feel the lightness that comes from dropping the heavy responsibility of judging others. You do not need to fix the world tonight. You only need to look inward, using the people around you as perfect, precious mirrors. The deep wisdom of the mirror. Let us explore the depth of this reflection further. The mirror of self and others works on two distinct levels, both of which bring immense comfort and clarity. The shadow reflection, the rejected self. The qualities in others that trigger your strongest aversion are often parts of your own being that you have fiercely rejected and pushed into your unconscious shadow. For Joryu, it was chaos. He needed to be perfect, so he demonized the lack of perfection in Kinko. When you meet someone who lies easily, and this causes you profound moral outrage, the mirror might be showing you the deep truth of your own small, daily dishonesties, the white lies, the subtle manipulations that you refuse to acknowledge. The other person is simply acting out a quality in a large, unavoidable way, so that you are forced to confront the small, hidden version of it within yourself. To accept this reflection is to begin the process of integration. You are not accepting the other person's harmful behavior. You are accepting the potential for that behavior within your own human nature. This acceptance creates humility and compassion, which are the antidotes to anxiety. When you cease to be a judge, you can finally rest. The light reflection, the unclaimed potential. The mirror also works in the opposite direction. The qualities you most deeply admire and are drawn to in another person are often the expressions of your own highest, unclaimed potential. When you meet someone radiating effortless calm and you feel a deep magnetic pull toward their peace, the mirror is showing you the depth of calm that lies dormant within your own being. When you are inspired by someone's courage or generosity, it is your own innate courage and generosity recognizing itself in the external form. They did not come into your life by chance. They came to illuminate the map of your own spirit. They show you what is possible. They are not heroes that exist outside of you. They are the external manifestation of your inner Buddha nature. The mistake we make is to believe that the light belongs to them and must be obtained from them. This creates the anxiety of attachment, the fear of loss. The wisdom of the mirror is to realize the light belongs to the shared reality, and your job is simply to recognize and cultivate the reflection within your own jewel. The joy of full acceptance. When Joryu finally accepted that Kinko was reflecting his own stifled spontaneity, he stopped criticizing. He watched Kinko with a new, quiet curiosity, letting his apprentice's chaos simply be. He noticed that Kinko's asymmetrical teacups possessed a lively, unconditioned beauty that his own perfect vases lacked. In that moment of total acceptance, Joryu found true peace. He realized that the greatest flaw was not in the lopsided cup, but in the rigid mind that could not accept the boundless variety of life's forms. He and Kinko did not become friends in the conventional sense, but they became a perfect, complementary unit. The master of form and the master of flow, both reflecting the truth that true perfection lies in the acceptance of imperfection. The feeling of being whole, which is the state of deep rest, is achieved when you consciously retrieve the projected shadows and acknowledge the reflected light. Every person you meet is an essential tool for this final integration. They ensure your path toward awakening is precise and true. Allow your mind to fully surrender to the wisdom of the mirror. You are safe. You are whole. Every person you meet is a reflection of your own magnificent, boundless, and imperfect self. This realization is the ultimate release from the anxiety of connection. The mirror is still. The heart is open. Deep sleep awaits. The sound of the one hand in connection. Draw a quiet, deep breath, allowing the air to move slowly and completely through your body. Let the relaxation deepen, knowing you are safe, supported, and perfectly connected. We have explored the perfect reflections in the mirror of self. Now, we turn to one of the most famous Zen koans, using its profound riddle to unlock the final, deepest level of rest in human relationships: the sound of the one hand. The traditional koan asks, you know the sound of two hands clapping. What is the sound of one hand? This question is designed to stop the mind, to force it past the dualistic thinking that dominates our interactions. In relationships, we constantly operate in the realm of two hands: me and you, giver and taker, love and hate, coming and going. This dualistic thinking is the engine of anxiety, because we are always trying to balance the two hands, striving for perfect reciprocity, fearing the loss of one side, or clinging to the presence of the other. The sound of the one hand is the sound of non-duality in connection. It is the moment when the distinction between the two hands, the self and the other, ceases to matter, and all that remains is the single, unified sound of pure reality. This is the place of true, unconditioned peace. The riddle of the Zen garden. In a secluded Zen monastery nestled in the hills, there lived a young student named Haru. Haru was tasked with maintaining the monastery's dry landscape garden, the Kare Sansui. His anxiety was constantly focused on one difficult relationship: his connection with his own father, who had rejected Haru's decision to become a monk. Haru felt an agonizing split. One hand was his father's expectation, a life of business and prosperity. The other hand was his monastic vow, a life of silence and poverty. Two hands were constantly clapping loudly in his heart, creating a ceaseless noise of internal conflict. He brought his distress to the master, a silent woman named Genshin. "Master," Haru asked, bowing low, "my father and I are two hands that cannot agree. Our constant struggle disrupts my meditation. I want to honor him, but I cannot deny my path. I seek the silence between us. How can I stop the clapping?" Genshin looked at the rake in Haru's hand, then at the perfect swirling patterns in the white gravel of the garden. "Haru," she said, her voice like the crisp fall air, "you are tired of the sound of two hands. Go and find me the sound of one hand in the garden. Until you hear it, you will only know struggle." Haru returned to the garden, deeply perplexed. He spent weeks trying to create silence. He raked softly, hoping to eliminate the scraping noise of the gravel. He tried to meditate on one hand alone, but the silence was always interrupted by the memory of his father's angry voice, the phantom clap. The more he sought the single, pure sound, the more the internal noise of the conflict grew. Moving beyond dualism. The intellect cannot solve the riddle. The riddle is solved by surrender. The solution to the koan is not a literal sound, but the cessation of the listener's attempt to categorize the world into two. In the context of Haru's relationship, the two hands were his father and his vow. His suffering came from the belief that these two things were separate, oppositional, and solid. He believed he had to choose one and reject the other, thereby creating the perpetual tension of the choice itself. But the truth of emptiness and interdependence teaches us that the father and the vow are two sides of the same single reality. They are both perfect karmic manifestations arising to guide Haru's awakening. The father's resistance was the perfect condition to deepen the vow's resolve. The vow's silence was the perfect contrast to illuminate the father's love, which was hidden beneath his anger. When you struggle with a relationship, a painful breakup, an ongoing conflict, or an impossible decision, you are hearing the sound of two hands clapping. The peace you seek is not the disappearance of one hand. It is the realization that the two hands are non-dual. They are both essential parts of a single flowing whole. This realization is profoundly calming. You stop fighting the conflict. You stop demanding that the person be only good or only bad. You accept that they are a perfect mix, arising simultaneously with your own complexity. The silent transmission and the unconditioned sound. Let us contemplate the profound depth of this non-dual sound. The sound of one hand is the unconditioned truth of every human encounter. It is the moment before you apply a label, the space between the breath, the pure essence of being. In a conflict, the sound of two hands is the argument, the accusation, the defense. The sound of one hand is the silent, shared humanity beneath the words. When you stop listening to the sound of the argument and listen instead for the sound of the one hand, you hear the other person's suffering, which is the same as your own. You hear the fear of being misunderstood, the ache of isolation, which are universal sounds. This deeper listening is the Zen practice of hearing without grasping. When you listen without grasping the words as solid truths or final declarations, the noise of the two hands fades. You realize that the harsh words of your loved one are not permanent structures. They are just momentary sounds arising from deeper causes, like a branch snapping in the wind. The wind itself, the unconditioned reality, remains silent and whole. Think of the karmic thread again. The thread is one. The anxiety of connection is the mind trying to cut the thread in half, believing it must choose one end over the other. But the thread is not two. It is one continuous, luminous strand. When you stop pulling against the resistance of the other person, the thread slackens, and the tension dissolves. The sound of the clapping stops because you have dropped your effort to fight the other end of the thread. The wind erasing the garden. One evening, after months of fruitless effort, Haru was sitting exhausted by the edge of the garden, watching the moon rise over the raked gravel. He was too tired to worry, too tired to analyze. He simply sat. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept down from the mountain, rustling the bamboo stalks. The wind was so strong it erased the perfect, swirling patterns he had raked into the gravel. The garden, his carefully ordered world, became a blur of white sand. In that moment of total surrender and external disruption, Haru understood. The wind did not require two hands to make its sound. Its sound was the vast, unconditioned silence of the entire valley. The wind, the bamboo, the gravel, and his own sitting body, all arising together. The wind sound was the sound of the world's seamless unity. He realized the sound of the one hand was not the sound of a hand, but the sound of the space from which all sounds arise and into which all sounds return. It was the sound of emptiness,
the ultimate reality that allows both the Father and the vow to exist simultaneously without conflict. He ran to Master Genshin, bowing deeply. "Master, I've heard it. The sound of the one hand is the sound of the wind erasing the garden. It is the silence that holds both the rake's pattern and the wind's chaos." Genshin smiled, her eyes calm and deep. "Then the conflict with your father has ceased, Haru." "The conflict has not ceased," Haru replied, his voice peaceful. "But the clapping has stopped. The father and the vow are not two things. They are the same wind, raking the same garden of my heart. His anger is the perfect condition for my patience. My path is the perfect condition for his reflection. There's only one sound, Master, the sound of one life being lived completely." The deep rest of non-dual connection. Let this wisdom guide you to sleep now. The relationship that troubles you tonight, the one where you feel pulled between two opposing forces, is simply the sound of two hands clapping. Do not try to stop the other person's hand. Do not try to silence your own hand. Simply look for the space between the hands, the silence that holds the entire transaction. That silence is your true nature. The deep rest of the koan is the realization that you do not need to choose between connection and detachment, between love and loss, between self and other. When you realize the non-duality of all things, you can fully embrace the person who is here and peacefully release the person who is gone, knowing that both states are simply different echoes of the one single boundless life. Sink now, completely. The struggle of two hands is over. You hear only the vast, encompassing sound of the one hand, the sound of pure, unconditioned being, leading you to the deepest, most tranquil sleep. Your mind is the silent valley. The clapping has ceased. Rest now. Part 10. The final embrace of emptiness. Draw a deep, restorative breath. Feel the subtle expansion in your chest and the slow, complete release of tension with the exhale. You are sinking fully now, letting go of the need to understand, analyze, or manage. We have arrived at the ultimate philosophical destination of our journey, the final embrace of emptiness in all human connection. Emptiness, or sunyata, is the most profound concept in Mahayana Buddhism. As we discussed, it does not mean nothingness, but rather the absence of inherent, independent, or permanent existence. When applied to our relationships, this truth provides the deepest, most secure form of rest, dissolving the very roots of anxiety about people's comings and goings. If every person who enters your life is not a chance visitor, but a perfectly timed karmic reflection, then the final wisdom is to realize that the reflecting mirror itself is empty. This means the mirror is not a solid object. It is pure, unconditioned capacity, capable of reflecting any image without being stained, changed, or defined by the image. The koan of the mountain path and the illusion of solidity. Imagine a master named Hakuin, an elder known for his penetrating wisdom and his booming laugh. One day, Hakuin decided to take a pilgrimage, but he chose to walk the entire journey blindfolded. He walked for weeks, guided only by the sound of his staff tapping the ground and the subtle shift of the air. This blind journey was Hakuin's way of living sunyata in motion, relying on non-conceptual awareness rather than the fixed forms seen by the eyes. A student, Rin, who was troubled by a recent parting from a close friend, accompanied him. Rin constantly worried about the meaning of the friend's departure, struggling to find closure. The feeling of separation was sharp, solid, and undeniable in Rin's heart.
"Master," Rin asked as they walked, the wind whispering through the pines, "you walk with purpose, yet you see nothing. Is there a difference between the people we meet on the path
and the shadows we cannot see. Hakuin stopped and held out his staff. Rin, touch my staff. Does it feel solid? Rin touched the rough wood. Yes, master, it is solid and real. And if I were to tell you that this staff, which feels so solid, is entirely empty, that it exists only as a momentary collection of wood fibers, light, temperature, and your touch, would you believe me? Rin hesitated. My mind agrees, master, but my hand insists on the solidity of the wood. Hakuin laughed, a rich, rolling sound that shook the pine needles. And so it is with people, Rin. Your mind knows of impermanence, but your heart insists on their solidity. The anxiety you feel about your friend is because you are grasping the solid illusion of the friend, not the empty reality. The koan of the mountain path asks us to stop looking at the solid form of the person, the fixed identity of friend, lover, or mentor, and instead look at the underlying emptiness that allows the form to arise in the first place. The teaching is that the staff, the person, and the relationship are all dependently originated. They are not real from their own side. They require the existence of countless other factors, including your mind's perception, to appear to be solid. The non-location of the heart's pain and the opening of space. The deepest anxiety related to human connection is the fear that a relationship, once gone, leaves a permanent, solid wound in the heart. But if the relationship is empty of inherent existence, then the wound must also be empty. The pain you feel is not the solid thing left by the person. The pain is the mind's resistance to the emptiness that has been revealed by their departure. When someone leaves, the space they occupied opens up, showing you the boundless, unconditioned nature of your own mind. If you resist this vastness, clinging to the memory of the solid form, you create the sensation of a wound. To embrace the emptiness is to let the wound become a vast, open space, not a scar that restricts you, but a field that expands your capacity for compassion and wisdom. Rest now and realize that the friend you miss, the difficult relative who exhausts you, the connection you fear losing, all are like the wood of Hakuin's staff. They are real in the relative sense, providing perfect lessons and perfect love. But in the ultimate sense, they are empty of any fixed nature, meaning they cannot permanently harm you, and you cannot permanently lose them, because the connection itself is pure, unconditioned awareness. The perfect moment of arising and the unconditioned mind. The final stage of accepting emptiness in connection is to see every meeting as a pure arising, a moment of unconditioned perfection, like a single flower blooming in the vast, empty sky. When Hakuin finally removed his blindfold, he looked at Rin and said, "The difference between the people we meet and the shadows we cannot see is only this. The shadows require the sun and the solid object. The person requires nothing but emptiness to appear. This means every person who enters your life is an act of grace, an unprompted, spontaneous manifestation of the interconnected universe. Their purpose is fulfilled the moment the encounter occurs. There is no need for aftermath, no need for closure, and no need for explanation. The meaning is in the shared, empty moment of meeting. The meeting itself is the entire meaning. The touch of the two hands, as we discussed, is the entire sound. When the mind rests in this absolute purity of the moment, it ceases its frantic search for meaning and purpose in the past or the future. Let your thoughts of the people in your life become like clouds passing across the vast empty sky of your awareness. They arrive, they pass, and the sky remains unchanged, unstained, and perpetually whole. The deepest sleep is the sleep where the mind stops clinging to the illusion of solid forms and rests in the effortless reality of emptiness. There are no chance encounters, because there is no fixed point of reference to be accidentally encountered. There is only the ceaseless, perfect flow. Sink now into this quiet understanding. You are the empty mirror. You are untouched by all the reflections that have passed. You are boundless, spacious, and perfectly at rest. The dissolution of separation in the moonlight. Let us follow Rin's journey one last time. After hearing the master's teaching on emptiness, Rin continued his pilgrimage alone, carrying the riddle of the staff and the nature of shadows. He stopped at a large, still lake one night. The full moon was reflected perfectly on the water's surface. As he gazed at the reflection, he remembered the friend who had left. Suddenly, he saw the friend not as a separate person, but as a reflection of the moon in the water. The friend's image was utterly dependent on the presence of the moon and the stillness of the water. If the water moved, the image fragmented. If the moon set, the image vanished. Yet the moon itself, the unconditioned source, remained whole and untouched. Rin realized his grief was the mind clinging to the fragmented image on the water, mistaking the reflection for the permanent reality. He had been clinging to the idea that the friend's presence was a solid, necessary structure for his own life. He gently stirred the water with his finger. The reflection dissolved into ripples. Then slowly, the water calmed, and the moon reappeared. The friend's form disappeared, but the essential light, the connection to the source, remained. In that moment, the anxiety of loss vanished. He understood that every person he had ever met, the friend, the teacher, the stranger, was a perfect, spontaneous manifestation of the single, vast, empty moon of awareness. Their coming was not a chance addition, and their going was not a chance subtraction. Both were the perfect, necessary movement of the lunar reflection on the water of emptiness. This is the ultimate tranquil truth. You are not a container that can be filled or emptied by the presence of others. You are the vast, unconditioned sky, and everyone is a cloud passing through, perfectly and purposefully formed by the conditions of the moment, yet unable to affect the sky's vast, untouched nature. Let go of the heavy effort of making sense of it all. There is no ultimate sense to be made, only the boundless peace of absolute acceptance. Rest in the knowledge that you are whole, complete, and utterly safe within the embrace of emptiness. The breath is subtle. The forms are dissolving. The embrace of emptiness is here. The final teaching of the uncarved block and original simplicity. To truly accept the final teaching of emptiness in connection, we must return to the Zen concept of Pu, the uncarved block or original simplicity. This is the state of your mind before you affix any label or create any judgment about a relationship. When someone enters your life, your mind is initially Pu. Then you carve the block. This is a good person who gives me happiness. This is a difficult person who causes me stress. The anxiety is not in the relationship itself, but in the carving. You are afraid that the difficult block will carve you. The truth of emptiness is that the block itself, your mind, the other person, is ultimately uncarvable. The carving is merely a temporary idea. You can be at peace by realizing that the difficult relationship is simply an idea, a temporary carving on the surface of the boundless block. The true nature of the connection remains pure, simple, and unconditioned. Rest now in the boundless assurance of Pu.
You are uncarved. You are untouched. You are whole. Every person you meet is simply a reflection on your surface, guiding you back to your own original, empty, perfect nature. The anxiety of chance is replaced by the serenity of perfect, boundless purpose. Your mind is the simple, uncarved wood. Deep rest is here. The meditation on dependent origination. To seal this final understanding of emptiness, let us meditate briefly on dependent origination, pratitya samutpada, the very mechanism that proves the emptiness of all people and relationships. When you think of a specific person, ask yourself, does this person exist independently of their parents, their culture, their past experiences, or their physical body? No, they are entirely dependent on all these factors. Therefore, they are empty of an independent, fixed self. Next, ask, does my relationship with this person exist independently of my expectations, my memory of them, or my current mood? No, the relationship is entirely dependent on your perception and your karmic history. Therefore, the relationship is empty of an independent, fixed existence. This recognition of utter dependence is the source of profound freedom. Since nothing is fixed, everything is possible. The strained relationship can heal. The lost love can be peacefully accepted. The future is an open, unwritten script. You no longer need to exhaust yourself fighting against the illusion of solidity. Sink into the realization that every person who came into your life was a perfect, necessary convergence of dependent causes and conditions. They were never a chance event. They were the inevitable, brilliant flash of the universe's interconnected logic. Let the final realization be the cessation of all resistance. All forms are empty. The mind is boundless. The heart is at peace. Your body is heavy and warm. Your mind is pure, unconditioned space. Deep, tranquil sleep embraces you now. The practice of non-clinging in final liberation. Sink into the deep, quiet foundation of your being. Feel the complete surrender of your physical form to the surface beneath you. We have traveled from the certainty of karma to the boundless freedom of emptiness. Our final step in mastering the anxiety of human connection is the sustained practice of non-clinging. Upadana. If no one comes into your life by chance, then no one needs to be held by force. Their existence, their time, and their departure are all perfect. Non-clinging is not indifference. It is profound, unconditional acceptance. It is the highest form of love because it acknowledges the true nature of the other person and the relationship, utterly free and impermanent. To cling is to deny the truth of flow. To release is to affirm the ultimate reality of peace. The monk who clung to the river stone. In a small ancient temple built on the rocky banks of a powerful, fast-flowing river lived a monk named Kenshin. Kenshin was meticulous in his daily chores and devoted in his meditation. Yet he carried a heavy burden of sorrow over a relationship that had abruptly ended many years ago. He could not let go of the memory, the specific details of the person, the time they spent, and the pain of the parting were like sharp stones perpetually turning in his mind. Kenshin's job was to clean the flat, smooth stones of the riverbank every morning. One day, he found a particularly beautiful stone, a perfect oval, dark green and cool to the touch. He instantly felt a strong attachment to it. This stone, he thought, is permanent. It will not leave me. It is perfect. He took the stone back to his room and placed it on his altar, giving it the name Toa, meaning eternity. Every day, Kenshin would admire Toa, polishing it, talking to it, and deriving a false sense of security from its unchanging presence. Yet the more he clung to the stone, the heavier the sorrow in his heart grew.
because the stone served as a constant, silent contrast to the person he had lost. The stone was permanent, the person was not. The master of the temple, an old woman known simply as Soshin, observed Kenshin's growing obsession and his deepening sadness. One evening, Soshin called Kenshin to her side. "Kenshin," she said, her voice soft as the flowing water. "I see you have found a beautiful friend, but tell me, is Towa heavy?" "No, master," Kenshin replied, holding the stone tightly in his palm. "It is a comfort. It is solid." Soshin simply nodded. "Then carry it with you for 1 week, day and night. Never let it leave your body. We will see if the comfort remains." Kenshin obeyed. He carried the stone everywhere, sleeping with it clutched in his hand, working with it tucked into his sleeve. By the 3rd day, the stone was no longer cool. It was warm and sweaty. By the 5th day, the weight was irritating, a distraction from his meditation and his work. By the 7th day, the stone felt like a terrible burden, a fixed point of pressure causing his entire body to ache. The weight of clinging. When Kenshin finally returned to Master Soshin, he was exhausted and frustrated. He slammed the stone onto the table. "Master," he cried, "Towa is not a comfort. It is a weight, a distraction, a prison. I cannot work, I cannot rest, because of its ceaseless, unyielding presence. I had to carry it everywhere." Soshin smiled gently. "And yet, my son, you chose to carry the memory of your lost friend for many years, with even greater devotion than you carried the stone. The person left, but you manufactured an internal stone of memory and pain, the stone of clinging, and insisted on carrying it day and night." Kenshin understood. The stone Towa was a perfect metaphor for the suffering of attachment. Clinging is the act of trying to force the impermanent to be permanent, trying to force the free to be fixed. Whether you cling to a presence or cling to a memory of absence, the result is the same: the anxiety of a self-imposed prison. The purpose of every person who enters your life is not to stay, but to teach you the perfect lesson of flow. They are meant to flow in, bring their gift, and flow out, leaving you free and unburdened. When they flow out and you cling to their absence, you stop the flow of your own life, the liberation of the open hand. The practice of non-clinging is the liberation of the open hand. It is the willingness to offer total love and presence in the moment, without any demand for the future. Rest now and observe your hands. They are likely relaxed and open. This open posture is the exact metaphysical state of the mind that knows peace. The closed, grasping hand is the posture of anxiety, fearful of loss, demanding control. When you think of the person who causes you the most anxiety tonight, gently open your inner hand to them. If they are present and demanding, open your hand and release the need to satisfy their demands. Give what you can freely, without expectation of thanks or change. If they have left and caused you pain, open your hand and release the memory of the way things were. Accept the empty space they left, knowing that space is the vastness of your own unconditioned awareness. The key is realizing that true connection is not about possession, but about communion. You cannot possess another soul, nor can you possess a past moment. You can only commune fully and freely with the reality of this moment. This final practice of non-clinging is the ultimate proof that you understand the purposeful presence of everyone you meet. They came to teach you this lesson, that you are entirely complete on your own, and your peace is utterly independent of their coming or going. The sound of the unbound life. After his realization, Kenshin took the stone toa back to the river and placed it in the flowing water. He watched it roll downstream, tumbling and turning, until it disappeared from sight. He felt a moment of deep sadness, immediately followed by an immense lightness. The stone was free, and he was free. His connection to the river became his new practice. He watched the water flow ceaselessly, always present, yet never the same. He realized that the person he had loved was like the water, always flowing, always changing, and impossible to grasp. He was still connected to the essence of the river, but he was no longer bound by the anxiety of holding a specific droplet. This is the sound of the unbound life. It is the sound of your own peaceful breath now, the air flowing in freely, flowing out completely, without clinging to the inhalation or fearing the exhalation. The deepest sleep is the sleep of the open hand, the non-clinging heart. You are released from the burden of others and from the weight of your own past. Rest now in this absolute, unconditioned freedom. The river flows. The hand is open. Total rest is here. The Bodhisattva vow in relationship, the limitless field of practice. Draw a quiet, stabilizing breath, allowing the profound freedom of non-clinging to settle deep within your bones. The open hand is a testament to your ultimate peace. Now, we expand this personal liberation into the grandest vision of Buddhist practice, the Bodhisattva vow, applying it directly to the connections that fill your life. The Bodhisattva is one who has attained a high level of spiritual realization, but chooses to postpone their final entry into nirvana, committing instead to remain in the world of suffering until all other beings are free. The Bodhisattva vow is the ultimate statement of universal responsibility and boundless compassion. When you apply this vow to your relationships, the anxiety rooted in self-concern dissolves entirely, replaced by the vast, tranquil energy of selfless purpose, from small love to boundless bodhicitta. In ordinary life, our connections are often driven by self-centered desires. I love you because you make me happy. I need you to validate me. I am anxious because you might hurt me. This is a small, finite love, constantly exposed to the pain of impermanence and lack. We seek permanence where only flow exists, and we seek possession where only freedom dwells. This attachment to outcome creates the cycle of relationship anxiety. The Bodhisattva vow transforms this small, conditional love into bodhicitta, the heart of enlightenment. It is the realization that the love you feel for your dearest ones is not meant to be hoarded or fixated, but used as the seed to grow compassion for all beings, including the neutral ones and the difficult ones. The anxiety we feel is simply the friction between our small, self-centered desire and the vast, universal law of interdependence. The fundamental shift is this: every person who enters your life is now viewed as an integral part of your bodhisattva field of practice. This field is boundless, extending far beyond your immediate emotional circle. The partner who brings you joy is a perfect mirror reflecting your own capacity for loving kindness, challenging you to extend that same joy to those you find difficult. The difficult relative is a perfect challenge, demanding that you cultivate patience and equanimity, not just on the cushion, but in the chaos of shared reality. Their purpose is not to satisfy your emotional needs, but to serve as the precise, unique medium through which you fulfill your vow to liberate all beings. By dedicating your interactions to the welfare of others, you liberate your own heart from the prison of anxiety. The object of your practice is not your own peace, but the liberation of the other. Ironically, this external focus guarantees internal peace. The master of the ferry and the difficult passenger, Karuna in action. Consider the story of the master Jitsugen, who ran a small ferry across a turbulent, winding river. Jitsugen was famous not for his teaching,
but for his boundless patience with every passenger. One daily passenger, a wealthy, entitled merchant named Kanzan, was particularly notorious. Kanzan was arrogant, demanding, and never paid the full fare, often complaining about the speed of the current, the quality of the boat, and the slowness of Jitsugin's service. All the other villagers resented Kanzan, wishing he would fall into the river. This resentment was the sound of the small, conditional heart, the heart that judges and separates. But Jitsugin treated Kanzan with the same serene respect he showed the quiet, humble passengers. He always helped Kanzan board, listened to his endless complaints with a slight, peaceful smile, and never once corrected him or demanded the full payment. A young apprentice asked Jitsugin, "Master, why do you tolerate Kanzan? His behavior is an insult to your practice. Why do you not teach him a lesson or simply refuse him passage?" Jitsugin gently dipped his oar into the swirling water. "My young friend," he replied, "you see Kanzan as a difficult passenger, a karmic mistake I must endure. I see Kanzan as the perfect crucible for my vow. The easy passengers require no effort. They are the water that flows smoothly. They possess the momentum to cross. But
Kanzan requires every ounce of my cultivated patience, my non-judgment, and my metta. He is not a mistake. He is the perfect teacher sent to me by the universe to ensure that my compassion is not conditional, that it extends even to those who seem least deserving." Jitsugin explained that if his vow was to help all sentient beings cross the river of suffering, he must begin with the most challenging beings first. Kanzan was the true measure of Jitsugin's bodhicitta, testing its limits and transforming his personal frustrations into universal service. The anxiety the apprentice felt towards Kanzan was the mirror reflecting the apprentice's own lack of unconditional acceptance. The practice of the Bodhisattva vow is to see every encounter, particularly the challenging ones, as the perfect, customized lesson designed solely for your spiritual growth. The difficult person is not an obstacle. They are an irreplaceable instrument of your liberation. This realization is the deepest source of rest. The 6 perfections in human interaction. The Bodhisattva path is built on the foundation of the 6 perfections, or paramitas. When practiced in relationships, they dismantle anxiety by removing the self-clinging foundation. Generosity, dana. This is not just giving money, but the giving of your non-anxious presence. When you encounter a person consumed by anxiety or anger, your generosity is to offer a space of peace without absorbing their fear. This is the gift of fearlessness, dana. Moral discipline. This means maintaining impeccable internal and external conduct, especially avoiding the harmful speech that often arises in conflict. No anger, no lying, no harsh words. Your sila ensures that your interaction, regardless of the other person's behavior, always serves as a cause for peace. Patience. This is the perfection that directly dismantles relationship anxiety. Patience is the willingness to be absolutely unaffected by criticism, anger, or misunderstanding, seeing all these actions as empty expressions of suffering. It is the refusal to retaliate, resting instead in the profound wisdom that this moment will change. Effort. The continuous, sustained, joyful effort to uphold the vow. It is the energetic commitment to see the perfection in the other person, even when they are acting out their greatest confusion. Your effort ensures that your mind never lapses back into small, conditional attachment. Meditation. In relationships, meditation is the ability to maintain the vast,
open, non-judgmental space of pure awareness during the most emotionally charged moments. It is realizing that the emotional turmoil is just a wave, and you are the ocean. Wisdom. This is the crowning perfection. Prajna is the non-dual insight of sunyata that proves the connection, the person, and your anxiety are all empty of independent existence. This wisdom makes the other 5 perfections effortless
because you realize there is no giver, no gift, and no receiver. Only the single flow of unconditioned reality. The non-dual wisdom of karuna and prajna. The bodhisattva vow is the perfect union of compassion, karuna, and wisdom, prajna. Without prajna, karuna is exhausting and sentimental. Without karuna, prajna is cold and detached. True peace arises from their fusion. Karuna is the heart that cries out, "May all beings be free from suffering." Prajna is the mind that realizes there are no separate beings and suffering is empty of fixed reality. When you interact with a challenging person, karuna moves you to help them, and prajna prevents you from becoming entangled in their drama. You see their suffering as real on the relative level, moving you to act with kindness. Yet you see the sufferer and the suffering as empty on the ultimate level, preventing you from developing anxiety or attachment to the outcome. The anxiety about a relationship, the fear of not being enough, or the fear of being hurt, is the result of separating these two. You cling to your small self. Prajna is weak, and you demand a specific result. Karuna is conditional. Rest now in the total integration of these 2 forces. Your interactions are now perfectly balanced. Vast heart, empty hand. You give everything, yet cling to nothing. This is the ultimate, tranquil assurance of the Bodhisattva path, the exchange of self and other, the ultimate antidote to anxiety. The deepest level of the Bodhisattva practice is the exchange of self and other, Tonglen. This is the final demolition of the self-clinging that fuels relationship anxiety. The logic is, the self that is anxious is the cause of all suffering, and the self that is selfless is the cause of all peace. In your deeply relaxed state, bring the image of the person who causes you deep anxiety into your mind. This could be a demanding boss, an angry relative, or a memory of a lost love. Now, as you inhale, consciously and intentionally, breathe in all the suffering of that person, their frustration, their confusion, their anger, the very causes of their difficult behavior. Breathe in the dark, heavy smoke of their pain, realizing that this pain is the generic suffering of the human condition that you have purified through prajna. As you exhale, consciously and intentionally breathe out all the light, peace, healing, and freedom you have accumulated in your practice. Send them the white, radiant vapor of your unconditional well-being, the peace rooted in non-dual understanding. Do not fear that this will overwhelm you. Your mind, rooted in emptiness, is vast enough to contain all their pain without being permanently stained. This practice transforms the fear of connection into the courage of compassion, the ultimate antidote to relationship anxiety. The exchange is the ultimate act of no self in action, for there is no self to be harmed and no other to be saved. Only the flow of purification. Rest now, allowing your breath to become this silent, sacred exchange. Breathe in the world's pain, breathe out boundless peace. The anxiety has no space to cling in this vast, compassionate heart, which is dedicated to the ultimate liberation of all beings. Your mind is vast as the ferryman's river. Your purpose is unconditional. Rest now in the ultimate freedom of the vow. Rest now in the deep realization that the anxiety you carry is merely the echo of the small heart, the heart that clings to permanence and self-interest. The Bodhisattva vow is the antidote, the vast, open space of the great heart, which knows no limits and fears no change. The anxiety dissolves when the focus shifts entirely from self-preservation to universal liberation. The 3 doors of liberation in relationship. To truly embody the Bodhisattva vow in your daily interactions, you must pass through the 3 doors of liberation, or the moksha, mukha, applying them not just to ultimate reality, but to the relative reality of your connections. Emptiness, shunyata door. We discussed this deeply. It is the door that sees every person as empty of inherent, fixed self. When you interact with a demanding person, you see their demand as empty, their anger as empty, their identity as empty. This insight prevents you from creating a solid target for their arrows. If the object is empty, the arrows pass right through without leaving a solid wound. The anxiety of being permanently harmed vanishes entirely. Signlessness, anamitta door. This door sees all relationships as empty of fixed characteristics or signs. It is the refusal to affix permanent labels to people. The person who was your lover yesterday is not fixed as lover today. The person who was a difficult teacher last year is not fixed as such now. Anxiety thrives on fixed signs. They will always be this way. Our relationship must always be that way. Signlessness allows you to meet every person freshly, as a new, unconditioned event, free from the heavy baggage of history and fixed expectation. This door frees you from the tyranny of memory and the fear of projection. Aimlessness, apranihita door. This is the most challenging and most liberating door. It means the relationship is empty of a fixed, required goal or aim. It is the abandonment of the need for an outcome. The small heart is constantly aiming. I aim for approval. I aim for permanence. I aim for reconciliation. This aiming is the direct cause of attachment and anxiety. The Bodhisattva vow, viewed through the lens of aimlessness, means you show up fully, lovingly, and compassionately, but you have no aim for the result. You give the gift of presence without demanding its reciprocation or continuation. This profound release from the need to manage or control the outcome is the essence of tranquil freedom. Rest now, passing through these 3 doors. See the people in your mind as empty forms, without fixed signs, and release your aim for any specific result. The moment you stop aiming for a fixed future with them, your heart relaxes into the perfect present. The great vow as transcendent. Dana, generosity. The perfection of generosity, dana, is the foundation of the Bodhisattva path, and in relationship anxiety, it is the most practical antidote. When you are anxious about an interaction, your energy is focused on withholding your true feelings, withholding your commitment, withholding your vulnerability, out of fear. The great vow reverses this. Your ultimate dana in a relationship is the generous gift of your unconditioned self. This dana has 3 components, transcending mere material gifts. The gift of the Dharma, to live your truth in the interaction. This means acting from a place of sunyata and karuna, being an unmoving pillar of patience. Your non-anxious presence is the Dharma itself, a silent teaching to the other person that peace is possible even amidst chaos. The gift of fearlessness, abhaya, dana. This is the ultimate gift you give to others. Anxiety is the result of fearing that the other person's suffering or anger will contaminate you. Abhaya, Dana means entering the interaction without fear, conveying a quiet assurance. I see your suffering, but I am not afraid of it, and I am not afraid of you. This non-fear immediately stabilizes the emotional energy of the connection, the gift of self. Atma, Dana, the radical commitment to give your full, unconditional attention in that moment, seeing the other person as perfectly endowed with the Buddha nature. This is the ultimate act of respect, removing the need for them to earn your presence. When your relationship is dedicated entirely to this level of generosity, the anxiety about what you will receive disappears, because your only function has become what you can give, and what you give is infinite. The source of your peace is no longer external and limited, but internal and boundless. The impermanence of the anxiety itself. The anxiety you feel about people is rooted in the fear of impermanence. Yet you must apply the same teaching to the anxiety itself. The feeling of anxiety is not a fixed, solid reality. It is an empty phenomenon that arises from causes and conditions and is subject to cessation. Sit with the anxiety now. Do not fight it. Observe it as an empty, transient cloud passing through the vast sky of your awareness. The anxiety is born from the memory of a past hurt and the projection of a future loss. It is sustained by the clinging belief that the person or relationship is fixed and solid. It is destroyed by the direct insight of sunyata. The Bodhisattva vow provides the action that counteracts the anxiety's momentum. By engaging in the practice of Tonglen, breathing in their suffering and breathing out your peace, you use the very energy of the anxiety as the fuel for your compassion. The act of dedicated giving breaks the loop of self-clinging that sustains the fear. You are not fighting anxiety. You are transforming it into the highest form of unconditional love. The practice is the process of realizing that the anxiety is just the friction created when the small, limited self tries to prevent the vast, infinite flow of Karuna dollar. Rest now, sinking into the truth that your anxiety, like all forms, is empty, transient, and utterly subject to change. The change is happening now, as you dedicate your heart to the liberation of all beings encountered in your life. Your heart is vast. Your anxiety is dissolving. The Bodhisattva vow is your final, tranquil harbor. The seamless fabric of time. Three-time non-duality. Draw a breath that is long, slow, and completely present. Let the vastness of the Bodhisattva vow settle into your consciousness. We now turn our attention to the final boundary that fences the human heart and fuels anxiety, the illusion of time. Our journey asserts that no one comes into your life by chance, and the final teaching in this assertion is the realization that no one truly leaves, because no time truly passes. This is the doctrine of three-time non-duality, the profound insight that the past, the present, and the future are not separate, solid compartments, but a single, indivisible, empty flow. The anxiety you feel about people, regret over past actions, fear of future loss, is entirely dependent on the mind's mistaken belief in the solid reality of these three separated times. The illusion of the three fixed times and the role of consciousness. The common, anxious mind divides time rigidly. Past, the source of regret, memory, and fixed identity. They treated me badly then. I should have said this then. This binds the person to a fixed history. Future, the source of fear, expectation, and control. I fear losing them tomorrow. I need this relationship to guarantee happiness later. This binds the person to a fixed outcome. Present, a fleeting, anxious bridge between the two. The Buddhist wisdom of three-time non-duality reveals a revolutionary truth about consciousness. The past is entirely dependent on the present moment's memory to exist, and the future is entirely dependent on the present moment's projection to appear. Neither possesses any inherent, independent reality from their own side. They are empty. The only ultimate reality is the now, and the people who have touched your life exist only as manifestations within the timeless purity of this single instant of consciousness. The mistake of the anxious mind is mistaking the memory for the event, and mistaking the projection for the certainty. When you cling to the past version of a person, you are clinging to a vibration of consciousness that has already ceased. When you fear a future loss, you are clinging to a thought form of consciousness that has not yet arisen. Both actions steal the energy from your present reality. The Zen Master, the floating cherry blossom, the Kala's non-duality koan. Imagine a Zen master named Aizan sitting beside a pond, watching a cherry blossom petal float on the water. A student, Shinto, approached him, lamenting the memory of a friend from childhood who had moved far away, causing Shinto deep, lingering sorrow. "Master," Shinto asked, "my heart aches for a past connection that is gone forever. How can I release the solidity of that memory?" Aizan gently pointed to the petal floating on the water. "Shinto, look at the petal. Is this petal the same petal that fell from the tree an hour ago?" Shinto pondered this. "Yes, master, it is the same physical form." "But is it?" Aizan countered, his gaze penetrating. "The petal an hour ago was suspended in air, dry and attached to the tree by potential. The petal now is heavy with water, moving on the current, and detached. Its chemical composition is changing. It is not the same form because the conditions that define it have completely changed. The only continuity is the flow of impermanence itself, the river of time that carries the form." Aizan then picked up a stone and placed it in the water, causing ripples. "Your sorrow is the mind's insistence that the petal you see now is the identical, fixed form of the past petal. The friend you remember is not a solid entity fixed in the past. They are like the petal, continuously changing, continuously flowing, existing only as a single, unique reflection in the present pond of your mind. Their reality is dependent on your present consciousness. The past person is an empty memory form now. You are clinging to the form, not the reality. The reality of the connection lives only in the timeless essence of the relationship, which is always available in this single, expansive moment. The liberation of three-time non-duality is realizing that the friend you miss has not gone to a solid past. They have simply ceased to be defined by their previous conditions. They exist now as a lesson, a memory, a warm feeling, a present reality that cannot be lost, only reperceived. The practice of dissolving the future, aimlessness, and freedom. The other half of relationship anxiety is the fear of the future, the anxiety that a present, beloved connection will inevitably lead to future loss or pain. This fear is dependent on the illusion that a solid, fixed future is waiting to consume the present. The aimlessness, apranihita, door, discussed in the previous chapter, is the practice of three-time non-duality applied to the future. If the future is empty of fixed forms, then your expectation of loss is also empty. The mind creates anxiety by projecting the solid, fixed self into an imagined future, fearing that this fixed self will meet a fixed catastrophe. The wisdom of non-duality states that both the projected self and the imagined catastrophe are empty forms. The only way to defeat the anxiety of the future is to refuse to use the present person as a guarantee for
future happiness. Dedicate yourself to the connection entirely in this moment, giving dana and karuna without any aim for tomorrow's outcome. The Bodhisattva vow operates with an aim for universal liberation, which is a boundless aim, not a personal one. When you refuse to ask the present moment to serve the future, the present becomes boundless, spacious, and completely free from anxiety. The person is no longer a potential source of future sorrow, but a perfect, momentary expression of interdependence. You are free to love them fully, because you have surrendered the desperate need for them to be a fixed component in your future narrative. The role of pratitya samutpada in timelessness. The ultimate understanding of three-time non-duality is found in the doctrine of dependent origination, pratitya samutpada. If all things arise due to a specific convergence of causes and conditions, then time itself is not a separate force, but simply the measurement of these changing conditions. The past is the set of causes that have ceased. The future is the set of conditions yet to manifest. The present is the effect arising from the past causes, simultaneously creating the conditions for the future. Therefore, the person you loved in the past is not truly gone. The causes they set in motion, the lessons, the kindness, the pain, are still manifesting as effects in your present consciousness. The connection is not historical. It is a live, energetic reality that exists right here, right now, as an integral part of who you are. The connection is a seamless thread woven through time, only perceived as broken by the ego's desire for the original form. Rest now, allowing the illusion of time to dissolve. The past is a memory in this mind. The future is an idea in this mind. The only reality is the single, seamless, tranquil now. In this now, all your connections, past and present, are perfectly held in the boundless fabric of consciousness. The clock is silenced. The forms are flowing. Rest now in the timeless essence of connection. Part 13. The seamless fabric of time. Three-time non-duality. Continued expansion. Sink deeper into the vast open reality of the now. The anxiety you carry is merely the mind's ceaseless effort to impose the artificial linearity of time onto the boundless, non-dual nature of existence. When you grasp a relationship, you grasp at a shadow of the past or an illusion of the future. The non-dual truth liberates you from this exhausting labor. The Four Noble Truths applied to temporal clinging. The ultimate peace in three-time non-duality is found by applying the Four Noble Truths directly to your temporal anxiety regarding relationships. Truth of suffering. Dukkha. The suffering is not the loss of the person in the past, nor the fear of loss in the future. The suffering is the clinging to the idea that time is solid and separate. You suffer because you believe the past person is permanently gone and the future person is permanently in peril. This clinging to the reality of separated time is dukkha. Truth of the origin of suffering. Samudaya. The origin of this suffering is craving or clinging to bhava, the craving for continued existence in a fixed form. You crave the continued fixed existence of the person in the past, or you crave the fixed, unthreatened existence of the person in the future. This craving for temporal solidity is the root cause of your relationship anxiety. Truth of the cessation of suffering. Nirodha. The cessation of this suffering is the cessation of the clinging to time. The peace is the realization that the past is a memory form in the present, and the future is a projection form in the present. When you cease clinging to the solid reality of past and future, all the anxiety attached to them ceases instantly. Nirodha is found in the boundless reality of the now. Truth of the path. Magga. The path to this cessation is the eightfold path, applied as the constant practice of Advaya, Kala. This path is the systematic dismantling of the illusion of separated time through wisdom and ethical action. Rest now, recognizing that your anxiety is a temporal illusion, and the peace is the timeless reality that holds all your connections in one single, pure moment of awareness. The Eightfold Path and Timeless Connection. The Eightfold Path, Astangika Marga, becomes your practical guide to living the truth of three-time non-duality in every connection. Right view, Samyak Drishti, the deep, penetrating insight of Shunyata applied to time. You see clearly that the person from 10 years ago is an empty form, dependent entirely on the current conditions of your memory. This view frees you from the weight of history. Right intention, Samyak Samkalpa, the intention to dedicate every interaction entirely to the now, without the aim of fixing the past or controlling the future. Your intention is pure karuna for the person as they are in this moment. Right speech, Samyak Vach, avoiding speech that clings to fixed temporal identities. No saying, "You always do this," or "You will never change." Right speech acknowledges the person's constant flow and transformation, reinforcing their impermanence and freedom. Right action, Samyak Kamanta, acting in a way that is utterly present and unburdened by past grievances or future expectations. Your actions are free dana, unconditioned by temporal calculation. Right livelihood, Samyak Ajiva, ensuring that your very way of life is not based on clinging to fixed relationships. Your life is sustained by the boundless flow of interdependence, not by the fragile solidity of a few specific connections. Right effort, Samyak Vyayama, the relentless effort to prevent the mind from wandering into the illusions of the past or the fears of the future, constantly drawing attention back to the reality of the present. Breath. Right mindfulness, Samyak, Smrti, the moment-to-moment awareness of the person as they are now, the present sound of their voice, the present light in their eyes, the present feeling of the connection, without overlaying the heavy shadow of who they were or who you fear they might become. Right concentration, Samyak, Samadhi, resting in the single unified concentration of the timeless present. In Samadhi, the illusion of past and future collapses, and the connection is revealed as a seamless, brilliant manifestation of pure reality. The parable of the empty grain silo. To illustrate the nature of past clinging, consider a farmer named Esau who had a magnificent grain silo. One year, a severe drought caused a devastating harvest, and Esau's silo remained empty. However, Esau refused to acknowledge the emptiness. Every morning, he would walk to the silo, stare at the dusty floor, and mentally calculate the bushels of grain that used to be there, and the market value they once had. This act consumed him. He wept over the phantom grain, grieving the abundance that was no longer present. He spent all his energy clinging to the memory form of the grain. His wife tried to show him that the silo was now a perfect, empty space, a space that could be used for rest or could hold the promise of a future harvest. But Esau could only see the solid absence of the past. The relationships you have lost are like Esau's silo. The form is gone, and the space is now empty. The anxiety of clinging is the mental effort of standing in the empty space, calculating the value of the connection that used to be there. The liberation of three-time non-duality is the realization that the emptiness of the silo is the true gift. That space is not a loss. It is the unconditioned capacity that allows new connections and new harvest to manifest. If the past connections were permanently solid, there would be no space for the present to arise. Rest now, releasing the mental calculation of the past. The past connection is complete, and the energy it provided has been perfectly integrated into your present being. You are free to turn your attention to the boundless reality of the now, the final liberation from temporal fear. Your commitment to the Bodhisattva vow guarantees that every future encounter, no matter how brief or difficult, will serve as a cause for liberation, not for fear. When you surrender the need to aim for a specific personal future, you stop fearing the unknown. The future can only bring new conditions for practice. If the person stays, they are a perfect condition for practicing karuna and dana. If the person leaves, they are a perfect condition for practicing kshanti and prajna. The outcome is irrelevant because the purpose is always the same: enlightenment. The only way a person can truly leave you is if you insist on separating the past, present, and future. By embracing the seamless fabric of time, you realize that
The thread of connection, once woven, can never be truly broken. It simply transforms its pattern and color in the tapestry of the eternal now. Sink now into this quiet assurance. The river of time is one. The light of consciousness is one. Your peace is one, complete and unconditioned by the passing shadows of temporal forms. The path is clear. The time is seamless. Rest now in the boundless freedom of the Advaya Kala. Walking the Diamond Sutra, the formlessness of all phenomena. Draw a breath that flows like a quiet, effortless stream. Let the anxiety that clings to the illusion of time dissolve, resting fully in the boundless non-dual reality of the now. We arrive at the penultimate wisdom of our journey, the razor-sharp insight of the Diamond Sutra, which teaches the formlessness of all phenomena in human connection. The Diamond Sutra declares that all things, all beings, and all relationships are like a dream, a phantasm, a bubble, a shadow, a dewdrop, or a flash of lightning. This is the ultimate tranquil truth of emptiness, applied to the very identity of the people you meet. If you can realize that the person is not a person, the anxiety associated with that fixed entity dissolves into boundless peace. The problem of fixed identity. The fundamental source of relationship anxiety is the mind's insistence on seeing the other person through the lens of a fixed form or characteristic. You create a solid mental construct for every person. My mother is a fixed source of comfort. My boss is a fixed source of pressure. My friend is a fixed identity of loyalty. When the person inevitably acts outside of your fixed lakshana, when your mother is disappointing, your boss is kind, or your friend is disloyal, your fixed construct shatters. The ensuing emotional pain and anxiety are not caused by the person's action, but by the shattering of your own rigid, fixed idea of them. The Diamond Sutra teaches that there is no fixed form, no fixed identity, and thus there is no one to cling to and no one to fear. The true nature of the person is formlessness. The dream of the guest and the koan of the non-person. Imagine a master named Genshin, renowned for meditating on the Diamond Sutra. One day, a visiting monk, Kyoku, was invited to stay for a week. Kyoku was rude, demanding, and constantly criticized the temple's simple food and routines. Genshin's own students were deeply offended by the guest. When Kyoku finally left, the head student complained to Genshin, "Master, we are relieved that that person is finally gone. His presence caused nothing but agitation and disruption." Genshin looked at the student with a deep, peaceful gaze. "Tell me, student, which person are you speaking of? The one who arrived was not Kyoku. The one who left was not Kyoku." The student was confused. "But master, he bore the body and name of Kyoku." "The Kyoku that arrived," Genshin explained, "was the empty reflection of our collective attachment to courtesy and tradition. He was the perfect, temporary form designed to expose our attachment to fixed rules of hospitality. The Kyoku who left is now the empty potential for a different future teaching. Kyoku himself, the fixed, solid person you hated, never existed. This is the profound teaching of non-person. When you meet someone, you are not meeting a fixed identity. You are meeting a temporary, spontaneously manifested collection of conditions, a transient form created by karma and shunyata. The person is like a vivid character in a dream. The moment you recognize the dream, the anxiety over the character's actions vanishes. You can interact with compassion, but you cannot be harmed by the illusion. The 4 vows of formlessness. The Diamond Sutra provides 4 key practices for walking this path in relationship. Do not establish any fixed view of self. Satkaya drishti. If you see your own self as empty, you cannot be hurt by the other empty form. Anxiety requires 2 solid entities to clash. Do not establish any fixed view of the other. Dharma drishti. See the person only as a flowing collection of elements, skandhas, not as a fixed thing or a solid person. Do not establish any view of the relationship as permanent. Nitya. Embrace the relationship as a flash of lightning, bright, powerful, and utterly transient. Love the flash without expecting the lightning to stop moving. Do not establish any view of non-formlessness. Anitya drishti. Realize that the very teaching of formlessness is also formless. Do not cling to the concept of shunyata. Simply live the boundless, open reality. When you practice these 4 non-views, your relationship shifts from a source of attachment and fear to a sacred, empty playground for compassion. You are free to engage fully, because you know with absolute certainty that no fixed harm can occur. Rest now, gazing gently at the forms of the people in your life, realizing their magnificent, terrifying, and liberating formlessness. The forms are empty. The anxieties are dissolving. Rest now in the tranquil perfection of the dream. Part 14. Walking the Diamond Sutra, the formlessness of all phenomena. Continued expansion. Draw a breath that flows like a quiet, effortless stream. Let the anxiety that clings to the illusion of time dissolve, resting fully in the boundless, non-dual reality of the now. We arrive at the penultimate wisdom of our journey, the razor-sharp insight of the Diamond Sutra, which teaches the formlessness of all phenomena in human connection. The Diamond Sutra declares that all things, all beings, and all relationships are like a dream, a phantasm, a bubble, a shadow, a dewdrop, or a flash of lightning. This is the ultimate, tranquil truth of emptiness, shunyata, applied to the very identity of the people you meet. If you can realize that the person is not a person, the anxiety associated with that fixed entity dissolves into boundless peace. The problem of fixed identity and the ego's defense. The fundamental source of relationship anxiety is the mind's insistence on seeing the other person through the lens of a fixed form or characteristic. You create a solid mental construct for every person. My mother is a fixed source of comfort. My boss is a fixed source of pressure. My friend is a fixed identity of loyalty. This mental construction is the ego's defense mechanism against the chaos of impermanence. By fixing the other, the ego attempts to create a fixed, predictable world for itself. When the person inevitably acts outside of your fixed lakshana, when your mother is disappointing, your boss is kind, or your friend is disloyal, your fixed construct shatters. The ensuing emotional pain and anxiety are not caused by the person's action, but by the shattering of your own rigid, fixed idea of them. The suffering is the sound of your internal construct collapsing, not the external event itself. The Diamond Sutra teaches that there is no fixed form, no fixed identity, and thus there is no one to cling to and no one to fear. The true nature of the person is formlessness. The dream of the guest and the koan of the non-person. Imagine a master named Genshin, renowned for meditating on the Diamond Sutra. One day, a visiting monk, Kyoku, was invited to stay for a week. Kyoku was rude, demanding, and constantly criticized the temple's simple food and routines. Genshin's own students were deeply offended by the guest. When Kyoku finally left, the head student complained to Genshin, "Master, we are relieved that that person is finally gone. His presence caused nothing but agitation and disruption." Genshin looked at the student with a deep, peaceful gaze. "Tell me, student, which person are you speaking of? The one who arrived was not Kyoku. The one who left was not Kyoku." The student was confused. "But master, he bore the body and name of Kyoku." "The Kyoku that arrived," Genshin explained, "was the empty reflection of our collective attachment to courtesy and tradition. He was the perfect, temporary form designed to expose our attachment to fixed rules of hospitality. The Kyoku who left is now the empty potential for a different future teaching. Kyoku himself, the fixed, solid person you hated, never existed." This is the profound teaching of non-person. When you meet someone, you are not meeting a fixed identity. You are meeting a temporary, spontaneously manifested collection of conditions, a transient form created by karma and sunyata. The person is like a vivid character in a dream. The moment you recognize the dream, the anxiety over the character's actions vanishes. You can interact with compassion, but you cannot be harmed by the illusion. The 4 vows of formlessness. The Diamond Sutra provides 4 key practices for walking this path in relationship. Do not establish any fixed view of self. Satkaya drishti. If you see your own self as empty, you cannot be hurt by the other empty form. Anxiety requires 2 solid entities to clash. Do not establish any fixed view of the other. Dharma drishti. See the person only as a flowing collection of elements, skandhas, not as a fixed thing or a solid person. Do not establish any view of the relationship as permanent. Nitya. Embrace the relationship as a flash of lightning, bright, powerful, and utterly transient. Love the flash without expecting the lightning to stop moving. Do not establish any view of non-formlessness. Anitya drishti. Realize that the very teaching of formlessness is also formless. Do not cling to the concept of shunyata. Simply live the boundless, open reality. When you practice these 4 non-views, your relationship shifts from a source of attachment and fear to a sacred, empty playground for compassion. You are free to engage fully because you know with absolute certainty that no fixed harm can occur. The true meaning of merit. Kushalamula, in formless connection. The Diamond Sutra focuses intensely on the concept of merit, punya, or kushalamula. The anxiety-ridden mind believes that to gain merit, you must perform visible, fixed acts of virtue, like giving to a solid person or building a solid temple. The sutra reveals that true merit is gained only when the act is performed without the perception of a giver, a gift, or a receiver. This is the merit of formlessness. When you practice dana, generosity, to a person you love, do so without the fixed form of I am the kind person, this is a precious gift, or you are the grateful receiver. This non-conceptual giving is the only true merit because it does not create the karma of attachment. Anxiety arises when you give with the fixed expectation of receiving a specific form of return, gratitude, loyalty, permanence. The Diamond Sutra teaches you to dissolve this expectation at the moment of the act. Give with a formless heart. This pure, unconditioned giving is the deepest source of rest because it is entirely free from the anxiety of expectation. The connection is pure, and the giving is its own reward. Rest now, gazing gently at the forms of the people in your life, realizing their magnificent, terrifying, and liberating formlessness. The final tranquility, the Dharma cloud, and the end of clinging. The ultimate goal of realizing formlessness is not detachment, but unconditioned presence. When you see the person as a transient, perfect manifestation, a flash of lightning, a dewdrop, you can appreciate its brilliance fully in that moment, without trying to bottle it for later. Your connection is not a fixed monument. It is a Dharma cloud, a spontaneous collection of moisture, light, and wind, perfectly formed for an instant, before dissolving back into the boundless sky. The anxiety comes from wanting to make the clouds solid. The peace comes from resting in the boundless nature of the sky itself. Let your consciousness be the sky. Let the people and relationships in your life be the clouds passing through. They arrive, they gather, they move, and they dissipate, leaving the sky utterly unchanged, whole, and perfectly serene. The forms are empty. The anxieties are dissolving. Rest now in the tranquil perfection of the dream. The final awakening, resting in suchness. Draw the deepest, most quiet breath of your entire practice. Release all effort, all striving, and all remaining tension with the exhale. We have traversed the entire landscape of connection, from the fixed identity of karma to the boundless freedom of formlessness. We now arrive at the ultimate destination, the final, perfect peace. Resting in suchness, ta-ta-ta. Ta-ta-ta, often translated as suchness or thusness, is the realization that everything, every person, every event, every coming, and every going is perfect as it is. It is the absolute acceptance of reality in its raw, unconditioned state, free from the mind's judgments, expectations, and anxious narratives. The entire anxiety surrounding human connection stems from a singular, exhausting effort, trying to make reality different from what it is. We desperately wish for the difficult person to be easy, the fleeting relationship to be permanent, and the moment of loss to be reversed. Suchness is the cessation of this wishing, the perfect, unconditioned nature of the encounter. When you rest in suchness, you understand that the person who came into your life was not a chance event, but a perfect manifestation of causes and conditions. Their appearance was such, their duration was such, their departure was such. Nothing was wrong. Nothing needed correction. The anxiety exists only in the space between what is, ta-ta-ta, and what I wish it would be, ego's projection. What is? The person spoke harsh words, driven by their own conditioning. What I wish it would be. I wish the person were kind and gentle. Anxiety, the friction generated by clinging to the wish against the reality. Resting in suchness is the profound, unconditional surrender to the absolute perfection of the moment, including the imperfection of the other person. The difficult person is not a mistake. They are a perfect expression of difficulty, sent to you to refine your unconditioned patience. The fleeting connection is not a failure. It is a perfect expression of impermanence, sent to you to refine your non-clinging. The mirror of ta-ta-ta and the end of judgment. Imagine your mind as a perfectly polished mirror. When a beautiful flower appears before it, the mirror simply reflects the flower. It does not judge the flower or cling to its beauty. When a piece of dirt appears, the mirror simply reflects the dirt. It does not recoil or criticize the dirt. The mirror is suchness. Your mind, in its pure state, is the mirror of ta-ta-ta. The people in your life are the objects being reflected. Anxiety is the act of the mirror trying to change the reflection, trying to polish the dirt, or hold the image of the flower permanently. The moment you see the person and the connection simply as a reflection of conditions, neither inherently good nor inherently bad, the need to judge them, fix them, or control them dissolves. You treat the reflection with karuna, compassion, because you see its condition, but you remain untroubled by its ultimate nature, because you know it is empty and changing. The final tranquility, the tath, the ta-ta-ta of separation. The most profound application of suchness is found in the moment of separation or loss. When a relationship ends, the small self views it as a failure, a deviation from the fixed path of permanence. The wisdom of ta-ta-ta sees the separation as a perfect completion. The causes and conditions that brought the two forms together have changed. Therefore, the forms move apart. The cessation is simply the thusness of completion. There is no need for regret, blame, or closure, because the event was already perfect in its arising, its duration, and its ending. By resting in the suchness of the separation, you recognize the truth of the Diamond Sutra. Katted, the separation, like the encounter, is like a dream, a phantasm, a dewdrop. You allow the dewdrop to evaporate back into the boundless air, knowing that its brief, shimmering existence was already its moment of perfection. This is the ultimate, tranquil assurance. You are safe because nothing needs to be different. Everything and everyone who has touched your life was precisely as they needed to be. Sink now into this complete acceptance. You are resting in the heart of ta-ta-ta. The wishing has ceased. The judging has stopped. The anxiety is silent. You are entirely free. Rest now in the deepest, most tranquil certainty of your boundless nature. The Lotus Whisper channel wishes you a night of complete, restorative rest and the ultimate peace of ta-ta-ta.